Occhio gets the race underway in Italy. The Giro returning to home soil, and straight away, and for the first time in this edition of the race, we've got 5, 6, 7 teams possibly trying to get up the road. Jayco Alula throwing a rider into the mix. Picnic Postenel, Raisin kicking it all off, and they're not alone as well. Uno X Mobility also joining in the fun, and we've got a proper scrap to try and get in the breakaway today.
At the front of the peloton, we have noticed immediately Decathlon, Little Trek and Astana, so there were indications they might as well be in the team to control the breakaway, and that's the case also today, as Jacobs is swinging by Jonas Ruch at the front, the big German from Lotto Intermarché.
Yeah, well, Decathlon are just riding at the front now with 2 riders, just allowing this group to get a bit, or are they riding it down now? It looks like they're going to shut it down. Koen Bouwman as well off the front in the purple of Jayco Alula.
Robert Stannard from Bahrain, victorious, but this is not the breakaway.
Jonas Ruch carrying on, the German. Groupama FTJ as well.
Short backs, if I'm not mistaken, at the back from Pinarello Q36.
In the black kits there.
Like, seems like Timo de Jong, if I'm right, from Team Picnic Postenel, followed by EF Education Easy Post. The first time we've seen the American team on the attack. That's what we're expecting. I think most of the attacks in this Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, I think it's Yardi van der Lee who's attacked in the green, predominantly green, what do you call it, slime green kit of EF Education Easy Post with a pink helmet. But that group hasn't got clear yet.
It's Oliver Nelson from Decathlon CMA CGM controlling the breakaway as the number that they want to have. I think like they're hoping to have 4 guys on the break. It's another attack from EF Education Easy Post.
The Irishman Darren Rafferty on the offensive. Koen Bouwman also looking round and following. Gijs Leemreizer by the looks of it from Picnic Postenel. Raisin goes off onto the wheel of Rafferty. Those two have got a little bit of an advantage. Decathlon looking around, Astana as well. Bouwman finds himself on the front. That surely isn't it. There's a counter-attack from Unibet Rose Rockets. Quite a slow one, quite a telegraphed move. It wasn't explosive and it wasn't particularly surprising. Visit Malta, though, with an attack for the first time. No sign of movement from the King of the Mountains today, Diego Sevilla, giving himself a rare day off in today's race.
Yeah, probably today there's going to be completely other riders going on the attack, so his jersey is not in danger for today's stage. He might as well taking 1 day of recovery ahead of what's coming next, as it seems like the road picks up a little bit more as the speed decreases a little bit. Seems like a decent gap. Yeah, it's a good gap. This Bardiani rider from behind trying to rejoin this, as this might be the breakaway, as I think the peloton has slowed it down.
Mattia Bais, I think it is from Visit Malta. Is that Tarozzi?
No, maybe it's Danoncello.
Yeah,
we haven't seen the number, but by the the style and the
Groupama have missed it. They've gone off, and Pinarello Q36.5 as well. They missed the move. They want to get a rider in the break. Yeah,
Movistar also was in the mix, followed by a Polti rider and Astana trying to control. Definitely, they don't want to have more than 5 riders up on the road, because it might complicate things when they're going to approach the final, the last climb.
Warren Barguil it is, actually. I thought at first it was Gijs Leemreizer, but it's a similarly slender figure of the veteran Frenchman Warren Barguil, who's representing Picnic Postenel at the front. And that lone rider from Groupama, even now, even though the gap is not particularly big, still into that headwind, it's going to be difficult for him to get across.
Yeah, the thing, like, I think, is hoping that the breakaway at the front are going to slow down once they realize they have a decent gap over the peloton.
Martin Bacialusi is the Bardiani rider, incidentally.
And appears in the background the Groupama FDJ United rider. Mattia Bais from Visit Malta. It's a very good team. Niklas Larsen, also very strong rider from Unibet Rose Rockets.
Looks like that might be the break. They are working hard into this ferocious headwind that you can see. This is going to be tough, and they have to go pretty hard now to make sure that this gap is definitive. Looking round, the riders at the front have pretty much all got teammates up the road, and they're just trying to pull the handbrake on, slow up a little bit, allow that gap to grow. It's 10 seconds now, but with that headwind, that would probably feel more like 20 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's pretty much it for the breakaway of the day, because the whole Astana riders were at the front, and it didn't look like there were all the teams that they were looking to go and trying to bridge across this breakaway. So I think this is going to be the breakaway of the day. 5 riders with Groupama trying to rejoin. Let's be seen if he's going to be able. It seems like it disappeared a little bit. Probably he stopped trying. He's going to know a little bit more better in a few seconds once the view is going to be changing. But the road is here still going up. That's the Groupama. No, slow it down as the peloton. Doesn't look far. Somebody probably was on the attack again, because we see Movistar drifting back, but all the Astana squad rejoining the front, trying to block the road. And at the same time, all the Mikael Bjerg is going on the attack now.
Yeah,
that's a rider nobody want to have in the breakaway. Very strong time trialist, very good climber.
Yeah,
he won't be allowed to move bigger. But this attack might as well bring back the very first breakaway. We have now 12 seconds. If you just keep pushing while trying to move clear of the peloton, he might as well rejoin the front of the race. Ineos as well.
Yeah.
Net Company. My bad. Newly name changing for the English squad. As you see, that's what I just said. Mikael Bjerg is in the hunt of on look for the breakaway. Is going to bring back the whole peloton to the breakaway. Probably now we're gonna have some other riders going on the attack again.
That is a bridgeable gap if anyone's got the legs to go after the front of the race now. Obviously Astana are not going to ride, and nor too is Jardi van der Lee in the green of EF Education Easy Post. Bettiol comes to the front. Picnic Post-NL, they've got representation at the front, but this is an opportunity for Groupama, and that's the next attack. It's Johan Jacobs, the Swiss time trialist, who's got that tantalite, like a carrot that is just being dangled off the front of the bunch now. The 5 riders at the front have come a bit closer, and Jacobs should be able to get across here.
And Jonas Ruch again is going on the attack, so they very close. That's the problem with the wind. You always see them, even if it's 10 seconds, they seems like very easily reachable, and that's why everybody's going on the attack. But Ruch has been shut down by EF and Astana.
Pinarello still trying to get across. You can see a little group of 3 riders off the front of the bunch now. That's being spearheaded by Pinarello. Jonas Ruch has been caught by Astana and by EF, policing the moves.
Yeah, a team we haven't seen at the front controlling the race is Team NSN. You would fairly expect them to be up there trying to, filtering a little bit the attacks, but for the moment they are not present at the front. Let all the teams doing the job, as Warren Barguil leading this breakaway now is 6 riders.
And now the gap balloons out again. It grows bigger as the road gets shut down and blocked by EF, by Astana. Red Bull as well. They don't want anybody to carry on with the attacking sequences. This Melissa bike as well, calming things down. That gap now is probably unbridgeable.
Yeah, seems like we got the breakaway of today's stage. Quite good one, I have to say. That's, it's a big number. 6 riders is not a little breakaway for such a short stage. And this is what we said. With those guys up here, they need to have them on a side, not too far, because 6 guys at the crest, the last climb with a good margin, they might as well come on the end. But at the same time, if you're too close, this opens up to more attacks coming from the peloton. So here is the front of the race: Rafferty, Larsen, Marcellusi, I'm sorry, Barguil, Jacobs, and Pais.
And the best placed of the riders by far in the general classification is the young Irishman from EF. He's one of 3 riders from that team at 10 seconds in the general classification. So already he's got the virtual lead of the Giro d'Italia. Darren Rafferty on the road leads the Giro virtually by around 7 seconds at the moment. He's the one who's dangerous in the general classification. For that reason, this breakaway cannot go to the line.
No, exactly. If they want to stand a chance to win this stage, you need to be à la pedale. So it's not going to be a gift from the peloton, as often happens in certain stages. By the kind of an unwritten rule, like if you are sitting up in the GC, the peloton is very unlikely to let you go very far, because it will be like gifting the Maglia Rosa for free almost. So there's going to be many teams involved into the chase, and at the same time Astana might be involved.
It does feel like because of Rafferty's position in the general classification in that breakaway, then the first duty falls heavily on Astana right now, doesn't it? It's their Maglia Rosa. They're the ones who have to ride at this point.
It could be as well like a kind of suiting better for sprinting teams, because if Astana start now to ride and they keep everything outside, they can spare the men, the sprinting teams for when it's going to be the time to hit the last climb. But then again, that's what we said, like how hard they can ride, the sprinting team on a climb in order to get the breakaway without dropping their sprinter leader. So that's going to be, the balance they're going to need to find later on in the stage.
Gorgeous skies, blue skies, little white clouds just hanging in the sky, being whisked across the horizon by this brisk wind that is blowing in off the Tyrrhenian Sea inland, passing by the little town of Macellinara. And it is indeed the blue jerseys of Astana who already have started to move to the front, letting the gap grow, but they won't let it grow too much today. No, it's a short stage. There's absolutely no way that this breakaway is going to be given 5 minutes to play with. I don't think.
No, they won't be granted too much margin over the... 6 riders is a quite consistent breakaway. You cannot allow to go too far, even for free. They might reach as well a couple of minutes margin, but this is going to cost a lot of energy for the peloton to get them, to bring them back to the peloton. As we hear at the back of the peloton, the position of Arnaud Delima indicated he was suffering already at the start of today's stage.
Doesn't look good, does it, already, even on the flat, for poor old Arnaud Delima?
No, it was quite demanding start of today's stage, as they now gonna basically stay on the side of the highway. They cut this, as I read now, the recorded word, the isthmus.
The isthmus, yes, that is a geographical term, isn't it?
Yeah. I might as well study this, because my daughter, 9 years old, she studied exactly those things. So I should have paid more attention when she was repeating with me what she was studying. So back in the peloton as Astana fully lined up at the front. They don't want to miss the chance to let this jersey go away. If they had to lose the jersey, need to be coming from attacks from other teams. They don't want to gift anybody of this jersey. If they're going to lose it because of the race condition, because somebody else is stronger, okay, let be it, but not because they didn't ride and they didn't take their responsibilities.
They're riding very hard here, aren't they, already?
Yeah, and it's Davide Ballerini, the experienced and powerful rider at the front. Respect him and Arjen Levins riding for control this breakaway. As you can see, the implication of them is completely different when you have a short stage like today. You don't have to doing overly complicated calculation. You just need to go as fast as you can. The stage is going to be probably less than 4 hours, I would say, like around 3:45, 3:50. So it's just one shot, one very hard day, and they know they cannot just gamble too much. They just need to go.
They are not playing games, either in the peloton particularly, and definitely not at the front here. You can see by their body language how hard they're working. They are going flat stick at the moment, just to make sure that this breakaway sticks, because the time gap is always, while it's less than a minute, it's not actually guaranteed. It's still just about hanging in the balance, this breakaway. But 6 is deemed to be almost the perfect size for a breakaway, because you can find there's going to be, it's too small for riders to hide. They're all going to have to share their work, and yet it's a powerful number. Yeah,
and it's preferred to manage a double line, as we see. They share like very fast turn at the front in order to keep the speed high. As you see now, Astana is still Ballerini. They're going to use just a couple of riders, but already a team looming at the back is Decathlon, CMA CGM. What we said earlier, this might be a team that today going to control, going to make the race harder. They have the rider to do so, so I think they're going to take their own chance and trying to set a good tempo that is hard enough to drop other sprinters, but allowing Tobias Lund Andersen to stay within the touch of the peloton. The other day, when the stage was ending up in favor of Thomas Silva, he was not far. He was 1 minute down. Possibly, if you read the classment, you know, you think like, okay, he finished 40, which was not great. But if you look in comparison to the sprinters, he was the best among them all. So it showed that he's in fine form. He's a good climber. He doesn't have the typical sprinter physique, you know, bulky and powerful. It just looked like he can climb very well. And as well this year, he made a massive step up in the sprint abilities. And I think it's if I had to do a pick, if I had to pick a rider, it's a predictable stage, so it's a baller move to just go with one name, but for me it's going to be Tobias Lund Andersen.
Well, he's had a very good start to the Giro, even if he's been denied the stage win that he's here for. Will today be the day that the versatile Dane from Decathlon AG Tour.
And we granted some music here at the finish line as the Bersaglieri, a very distinctive military music band. With a distinctive head with a lot of feathers.
So a spectacle here at the finish line in Cosenza, and quite a spectacle brewing up on this short and sharp stage as well. That's it on your screens. You can see how straightforward it is in principle, this stage. It's just that long run in to the only big climb of the day, and it is a big climb, a 14.5-kilometer ascent of Cozzo Tunnel. Get over the top of that, and there's less than an hour of racing, just 43 kilometers left. Big descent, and then a few more, maybe 10 kilometers to go to the Red Bull kilometer with its bonus seconds, and then 11.6k are left on the stage.
So here at the front, let's see, this is Jacobs from Groupama FDG United.
Took his opportunity to get across there really well.
It's a good, always on the attack. The Swiss rider, Rafferty from EF Education Easy Post, Marcellosi, very aggressive rider from Bardiani, Bais, already a stage winner in the Giro d'Italia from Polte Visit Malta, Wadenbergil, a winner already of mountain jersey in the Tour de France and as well as stages from Picnic Postenel, Niklas Larsen from Unibet Rose Rockets, and back again with Jacobs. So these are the 6 guys, 6 riders at the front. We're back at the peloton with Jonas Vingegaard rejoining the peloton after possibly a pit stop.
Looking super relaxed, Jonas Vingegaard. He's cut a very relaxed figure so far at the Giro d'Italia. Some great social media clips of, when was it, Sunday night back in Bulgaria, when the riders went to the airport for their transfer, and Jonas Vingegaard, with Dylan Groenewegen of all people as well, was spotted in the duty-free shop just looking at Bulgarian wine. Don't know if they actually bought any and stuck it in their luggage.
It wasn't actually Dylan Groenewegen. It was, I think it was Jose, one of the team director, not director sportif, but in the management area of the Unibet.
Oh, I thought it was Groenewegen, no? Oh, okay.
No, I think it was Jose, but it was a funny image.
Yeah, it was good.
I wonder if he was really picking up a bottle of wine, Jonas, but we don't know whether he's a lover of good wine. Peloton, the indication how they're riding, that they're riding quite hard, is this. There is already a line as, quite interestingly, Visma bike placing themselves up on the front.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Because with this wind, it's not actually the best position to be seated if you're not collaborating with the chase. Because when you got this with this type of wind, you know, if you're not collaborating, it's actually better to be in the bubble. And I have to make a correction because Bais here at the front is Mattia, and actually was his brother Davide winning a stage
a couple of years ago. Yep.
Yeah. Which is not at the starting line of this very Giro d'Italia. Davide Bais, the duos from Trentino, often on the attacks. They share the same racing attitude, very prominent when it comes down to attacking and going the hand of a victory or some results with the breakaway.
Well, Arnaud Delis at the back.
I think the position we might see for the whole day, probably. Let's hope it's going to be back at this shape, because he has some interesting stages that they might go on his like. So let's wait and see. They have a couple of good rider for today's stage finish. If we take away Leonard Van Etveld, which is the GC guy, and he was very active, very responsive the other day, was the only one able, along with Giulio Pellizzari, to respond to the attack of Jonas Vingegaard. But they have also these kind of punchy, strong riders like such as Lorenzo Rota and Simone Gualdi, the two Italians. They might as well stay in touch with in the peloton, and they're both quite fast. So quite some cards to play for the Belgian outfit, but probably the lead. It doesn't look good already now.
No.
You know?
Only in cycling does this apply, you know? If you've got an athlete who's actually sick, and yet he can't withdraw, he's got to ask it, you know, the directors are saying, get through today, you might get better. Only in cycling would you get that, in no other sport.
Yeah, because cycling is...
Because you can recover, sometimes you can recover.
But that's the same if you take, like, okay, the Grand Tour is 21 days, but let's take, for instance, I was thinking, like, what are the races that go through different stages, you know, like Paris-Dakar. I think it's the most obvious. Like, even if you had a crash or you're not feeling well, just go on. You might well win a stage, or you never know what can happen in a GC. Okay, in this case, like, cycling is way more complicated because in motor, like a motor rally, you don't have climbers and sprinters. So, yeah, who's strong is just strong and is winning. But in cycling, you know, you might as well have some opportunities later on in the race, and that's what exactly Arnaud is doing. As we said, the declaration before the start for him and the team was like he's planned to go home after a couple of weeks. So, but in those couple of weeks, there are plenty of choice for his style of riders for sprint, and especially hard sprint after hard stages. He's not in the. I don't think it's a matter of shape. It's just a matter of health. And he was sick. Ironically, he was kind of struggling through during the beginning of the season. He found his way back on winning just before hitting the roads of the Giro d'Italia. But it's exactly in that race, it was a lot of Femmen Classics, where he got sick because it was rainy and drinking. I would say it's not the correct word. Like, how would you say which word was soon better? Like the mud and the slimy water coming up from the wheels of the other riders that got in his stomach, and he was sick, and it was a sickness that was hampering and touching many guys. Milan Mente and his teammate Liam Schlock, that he didn't even manage to start the Giro d'Italia, was sent back home. But as well as all the riders that were at the start line got sick. And so he arrived in Bulgaria already sick with a lot of stomach disease, and simply it looks like he just doesn't have the energy. I think his stomach cannot really sustain or able to get the energy from the food he's having.
Did you, in your Grand Tour career, ever experience anything like that, where you were perhaps a little bit sick and just had to battle through it, Jacopo?
No,
were you lucky in your career?
I was lucky enough. I never get sick, but to experience and that happened already 3 times, to be heat stroke, how do you call it? I was never very good at dealing with the heat, as you know. Like, I'm always the guy who's sweating here in the commentary booth. and I remember specifically one time I was at the Tour de France finishing not far from Col du Glandon. I don't really remember where was exactly, but Nibali won. Was the famous day Nibali won when Chris Froome has a slight mechanical problem, you know. And Nibali was seated in 5th position, I think, in the GC, went on the attack, won the stage. I was last at the finish line, and I think, like, without probably with a couple of non-legal bidon collé, I managed to finish. But I think I didn't need it at the end because I was 1 minute inside the time cut. But it's more than 10 years ago, so I think
you can admit it now.
Yeah, you know, it's like there is a term, like a legal term, for something.
Yeah.
In Italy, it's prescrizione.
The statute of limitations. The Bulgarian police won't get after you, basically, Jacopo.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have to wait 10 years, I think.
Here's a reminder of the top 5 in the general classification. It's really congested. Thomas Silva leads by 4 seconds to Stork and Bernal, Timur Arensman and Giulio Ciccone in touching distance to the Maglia Rosa themselves. You know what? 6 seconds, that can be wiped out by winning the Red Bull kilometre, even before the finish line.
Yeah, and all the remaining first part of the peloton, which roughly features 30 riders, are all at 10 seconds. So, and this is just due to the bonuses that were awarded to Silva thanks to the win he had in Valico Tarnovo. So yeah, I think there is a stage up for grab today, but also the Maglia Rosa is up for grab. And if it comes down to a very reduced peloton, then we might see a different Maglia Rosa. And I think the interest of Astana is like we keep the breakaway aside, but they're hoping for a sprint finish, because a sprint finish today might as well mean that Silva is going to stay with the pink jersey, because obviously the GC guys seated behind Silva cannot contest, cannot beat a pure sprinter or a much more pure sprinter. So I think Astana is hoping, okay, we're going to control now, then it's up to the sprinting team, so they hope for this.
The standings in the Maglia Ciclamino. Paul Magnier has got a big lead over Jonathan Milan already, but there are 50 points at the finish line today. 50 in Napoli as well, another two-star stage. So that can change very quickly. Very interesting, because Paul Magnier is now coming under the spotlight a little bit in the media. People really waking up to what a superstar he has become. And his story is getting retold. Some interviews from when he was a junior rider have re-emerged, in which he wasn't really sure what kind of rider he thought he would become, and he actually, at the beginning of his career, the very beginning of his career, thought that he was a climber.
Yeah, and I can say as well that the first year he made his breakthrough into the pro peloton, it was 2024. I was still racing. I was there when he scored his first victory. It was in Mallorca. He was still very lean figure compared to what it is now. In 2 years, I think he added a lot of gym workout in order to gain pure power. He was already very fast, but I think like it was coming naturally, and now he's also powerful, because you know, in order to beat a rider like Milan in a very straightforward sprint, you know, you need to have a lot of power and use also in a very smart way. I think the other day he just had the right momentum. He also a good line, because his sprint was not hampered by, you know, the bumps that were in the last section of cobbles. He was very strong, and in order to do so, you need to, just have power. And I think he undergo a lot of gym workout in the last couple of years.
Well, you made some comments, Jacopo, a couple of days ago. We record after the live commentary every day. We record a podcast in association with the Giro d'Italia as well. And you made the point, we were talking about Jonathan Milan's sprinting style and how muscular it is, and how he's like a pneumatic hammer, how much stress he puts his equipment under the bicycle. And some people on the comments have been sort of saying, asking the question, is that actually efficient, or should it be something that Jonathan Milan maybe works on a little bit? Because when you compare what looks like the delivery of the power between Magnier, who's very smooth, and Milan, who's the opposite of smooth, is there a question mark about how efficient Milan is, and whether or not that could possibly change in the future?
Yeah, I do agree it's not efficient, but it's good to point out he did already some work on that, because if you look at some videos on his first year, especially if you go really back like 3 years ago when he was still at Bahrain, you see there is a big improvement. It's not perfect yet, because it's, indeed, like his style, like it's not really aerodynamical, but he changed, and especially this winter he changed the height of the stem and the handlebar, and as well the width, so in order to be more aero. So he's working on that. But I think the other day, probably also on the cobbles, you know, it's something like you're learning to do so, but when you're sprinting, like your brain doesn't get enough oxygen, so it's something like really hard to learn over time. But this put in place already a lot of works to get better on this matter, because of course, as you said, like is way less efficient than Magnier, which Magnier is not yet the best and most aerodynamical rider among them. I think, like, if you look at Groenewegen, the way he sprints compared to Magnier is already far better rider in terms of aerodynamic. So there's always room for improvement, but it takes time, because that's, you know, it's like when you grow, it's like, how do you do a signature? You know,
signature,
you don't work on it. It just it does what it is. So and imagine like you're 25 and somebody comes to you and said like you have to change it. So you start, but when you have to do it quickly, probably the old version comes out. And I know for sure, because I know Jonathan Milan, you know, the Italians, you know, the riders, they kind of share a good friendship among them all. And I know he worked out over the last couple of years to get better on this. And probably the other day, you know, it was a strange sprint with the slight corner, and he lost the grip, also the wheel. I think if it was the other way around, you know, Milan on the inside and Magnier on the other side, probably Magnier will have got better line, you know, because as you said, Milan is really heavy also on the handlebar, and you saw for a moment, for a brief moment, his back wheel was really spinning, and probably this come because of his very specific position and sprinting style he's using.
Very interesting. It's not just sprinters, is it? Climbers in particular. Well, I mean, every rider to some extent has their pedal stroke. Their body, you know, wants to. Their body falls into a habit of doing it in that way, and the variation is enormous, isn't it? From, I don't know, Domenico Pozzovivo to Chris Froome to Bradley Wiggins. You know, you have a mental pic. Alberto Contador, you think about how they pedal, and that is in their nature. It must be very difficult to actually change that and come away from your nature. Yeah. Make your body work in a different way. It must be very difficult.
Yeah, and you have to think like what you see now, they're professional. But all the professionals, they've been through a lot of years of cycling. Yeah. So it's not like they just started last year, so it's something like an habit that has been established a couple of years ago. Those things, like, they're there since at least, I would say, even the guys who started very late cycling, like we talked about Bart Lemon. Bart Lemon, he turned pro at 27, 28, and he was going on the bike since he was 20, more or less. So still it's 7 years of an habit of what you're doing, you know? Yeah. And so it's very hard if you have something you need to correct to do so, because it comes natural to you, you know, and you might force yourself to go. You know, one easy things many riders try to change is like what gear they're using, you know. But at the same time, imagine like Chris Froome or the difference between, well, like still we're talking about English rider, Chris Froome and Geraint Thomas. Geraint Thomas was always pushing like massive gears compared to Chris Froome, but it's something in his nature, and it was like this since the beginning. Yeah, absolutely. There's Darren Rafferty, just 22 years of age, born in 2003, for heaven's sake, on the 1st of July. Very talented, up-and-coming rider. Really came to prominence last year with a 2nd place, sorry, 2 years ago with a 2nd place finish in the Giro Next Gen. And then a couple of years ago, he also came 2nd in a stage of O Gran Camino. National champion as well. A couple of years ago in the road race discipline of Irish Federation at the tender age of just 20. Yeah, it's very young. It's also as a brother racing for the Divo team of EF Education Easy Post. Yeah. Family pretty much involved in cycling. And as a maybe there is also also checking. Also her sister racing also, and she's still 18. So that's the older of the three. Darren here in the picture. But a family soaked in cycling. A lot of experience for a 22-year-old, Darren Rafferty already, and by far the best placed in the general classification of the riders at the front of the race. Leads the Giro virtually now by almost 2 minutes over Thomas Silva. And that's why Astana are having to work pretty hard just to hold this at around about 2 minutes, because these 6 riders, and it's rare you see this in a breakaway, Jacopo, they have been flat stick basically. They have gone, they've attacked, they've gone clear, and there's been no let up. They have been going as hard as they can to sustain over the whole race distance for as long as possible. They're not playing games here. No, also, like, it's good to point out, in a little bit more than 50-55 kilometers, they're going to be at the bottom of the climb, and from there on, you know, they just need to go a block, because it's going to be the climb, and they know, like, for 55k they can sustain this kind of pace. Yep. You know, the race can be split into this first part of mainly flat lands, flat roads, and later on a dramatic change. Once they're going to eat the coast, they're going to head north, turning right, heading into the mountains, and the climb is going to start. So they know they just need to ride as hard as smooth. It seems only Marcellus having a little bit of a hard time following, but it's also what we were saying just before, his style of pedaling. Yeah. So basically, the tactics are for this breakaway, Jacopo, if I've understood you correctly, is start hard, the middle bit has to be raced hard, and then the end, go really hard. Yeah, it's a time trial start, so start hard, accelerate in the middle, and finish the block. Sounds really unpleasant. Yeah. But they're making Astana work hard here. And to think, look at the headwind that both parts of the race are facing at the moment, the breakaway and the peloton. Pure, strong 30-kilometre-hour headwind at the moment. And the average speed so far has been 43 kilometres an hour. Yeah, and it's going to be even higher, because they need to stay in touch within the within the breakaway. And we saw before the speed was 65 for them. That's the difference in between the front and the back here. They're sharing the work. A couple of riders from Astana is Ballerina 11s, and they have to share long pull, and it's different than what the breakaway is able to do. They have a long double line constantly keeping the speed very high. You know, you never really rest, but you never really push hard when you do a double line. And for them, it makes much easier to keep up the speed very, very high. As we're back in here with Juan Pedro Lopez, newly signed from Movistar after many years spent in the squad of Lidl Trek, wearer of the Maglia Rosa 3 years ago. Oh,
yeah,
4 years ago, actually.
Yeah, 22, wasn't
22,
it? Yeah.
22.
The last time we came to Calabria. I seem to remember that that was a long, hot day, the Calabria stage there, that ended in victory for your teammate, Arnaud Demar.
Yeah. Just about right.
There was no attack, I remember that much, because I was commentating on it, that nobody attacked for a long time until, if my memory serves me correctly, Diego Rosa, riding for Eolo Cometa. Briefly, I think he just went solo, and everybody, I think he won the Combativity Award and the Commentators Award as well for saving our day.
To do something.
Yeah. There's Jan Christen wearing the white jersey. And there is the wearer and owner of the blue jersey at the moment, giving himself a rare day off. Brilliant statistic on your screen a while ago. 493 kilometers he's been off the front in the first 3 stages. That is over 90% of the race distance. Diego Sevilla has been on the attack. He's also wearing the red Dossard number today because he was voted the most aggressive rider on stage 3. When the breakaway was caught with 500 meters to go. Now, what's going to be the fate of this breakaway?
Oh, let's hope not. The other day, it seemed like another day of inevitable sprint. You know, we almost never even thought like the breakaways stand a chance, because they were, I think, like between 30 and 45 seconds for how much? 20 kilometers more, possibly?
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, they speed up, and the peloton, because of the nature of the road, was very wide. It was more controlling the position rather than doing proper lead-outs. So it took a while for the team to really start the proper lead-out, and they had a fair chance. They just at the very end, they got caught. 500 meters to go. It was, yeah, we were kind of hoping in a way, you know, for them to make it.
Yeah. I still can't quite work out what happened there. I can't quite work out why it was as close as it was, but it was. Caught with just 500 meters to go. After such a long stage as well.
Yeah.
175 kilometers.
But today is another story. There is the parkour itself is calling for some action from behind. So I think, yeah, the breakaway is very hard believing they can make it. To be seen. It's not impossible. But many teams have their own interest to control this. And soon I think we're going to witness some other teams such as Decathlon or Lidl Trek coming at the front and helping this duo from Astana, XTS Astana, controlling today's stage.
Yeah, it's a not a conventional situation, this, for Astana to have to control there. They're doing a really good job of it, those two, Ian Livins and Davide Ballerini, but it's hard, and they won't be able to sustain it all the way to the, perhaps to the sprint, without getting a little bit of support from some of the other teams. Just drifting out now, the time gap, second by second. This is the biggest time gap that they've had all day, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Pretty soon they're going to be on the coast, and when they do get to the coast, they're going to turn right-handed and start heading north up the coast, and that headwind will become a crosswind over their left shoulders.
Yeah, we were speculating or kind of hoping yesterday that today would have been a day for Echelon. But at the end, no, it turned out to be just hard in the beginning for the riders because it's completely headwind. Before they, after they're going to hit the coastline heading north, then it's going to pick down, going to go down a little bit because, of course, with the mountains, it's going to be just a different type of, it doesn't channel because here, as you see, it's the flatter part between two seas. And that's why the wind is channeling and tunneling into this area, and it's blowing always very hard. But later on, it's going to be all good. And Cosenza itself, where the finish line is placed, it's quite in the middle of mountains, and it won't feature any wind. So it's going to be just very hard for the riders up the front now. As we saw Decathlon CMA CGM join the front of the peloton in order to help the Astana rider. So that's the indication we were expecting, that Tobias Lund Andersen has his eyes on this stage.
Thomas Silva, quite a long way back actually. The Maglia Rosa, content, feels safe enough. He's got a couple of riders with him and a couple of riders doing the work on the front.
It's a far better position to sit up front because it's headwind, and when you're in the bubble of the peloton, you suffer way less, especially at this point that there is no threat or anything or any danger. So I think it's a far better choice staying in the bubble rather than being up front.
You can see the airport to the left. That is where the entire crew, riders, staff of the Giro d'Italia landed a couple of days ago, when on Sunday nights the Giro d'Italia left after stage 3, left Sofia, the Bulgarian capital, and flew to this airport that they are passing by here in Calabria, and then dispersed themselves around the various different hotels in these towns in Calabria. Lamezia Terme is the name of this town, and the name of the airport as well.
There was many charters involved the other day for allowing all the RCS staff members, the riders, the teams to come over to this part of Italy in the south.
All the rest of the infrastructure, the barriers, the podium, the hospitality units, the commentary box that we're sitting in, the finishing arch and all the timing mechanisms and all those other bits and pieces, and there's a lot of it. Well, they have been waiting for a couple of days down in Italy for everybody to join up with them, and it's an entirely different setup from the one that we left behind us in Bulgaria. Looks similar, but it's two entire different giri.
Yeah, exactly. This often when the Grand Tour starts from abroad, from such a far distance, like this is where everything happened. Like we had the Giro E, the rides from Mediolanum, they have the biggest stages of the TVs. So it feels good to be back to like what it's all about, no? And it's what we were saying, that the wind is mainly headwind, is mainly in the front, in the face of the riders for this very moment. Later on, they're gonna turn north and it's going to change.
First hour of racing, basically, into a 30-kilometre-an-hour headwind. Citeria Lido, is that the point where they switch and turn right? That must be on the coast, I would imagine, because it's a Lido.
Yeah.
So that's not too far away now from the Tyrrhenian coast. Just a recap of who's in the breakaway. It's Nicholas Larsen, the rider you're looking at from Unibet. The Danish rider Warren Barguil, the former King of the Mountains of the Tour de France back in 2018, two-time stage winner as well. Darren Rafferty, the young Irishman. Mathieu Bais from Polti Visit Malta. They've not missed a single breakaway Polti Visit Malta yet, and they've got probably the most experienced breakaway artist in this move. Martin Macialusi, who's just a really feisty, aggressive rider from Bardiani CSF, and joining them, and he was the last rider to get across the front, Johan Jacobs, Swiss time trialist from Groupama FDJ United. And they've got the biggest lead that they've had so far, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. And now, yeah, Decathlon are riding on the front.
Yeah, we haven't seen the number of the riders pulling from Decathlon CMA CGM. Might be Pedersen, the former national champion of Denmark.
It's confirmation of Arnaud Demar's victory. It was the last time we were in Calabria, along the same road, actually, the long coastal road that they're about to pick up. 45th stage win. This is 44th, went the way of Arnaud Demar. Do you remember much about the lead out that you gave him that day, Jacopo?
Yeah, it was, okay, first just a little bit of folklore about the people from Calabria. We were coming off Sicily, and Arnaud won already the stage. It was ending in Messina. Then we took the boat to rejoin, you know, the inland, Italy inland. And once we arrived at the hotel in Calabria, the people that were waiting us with fireworks. And they light up. It was a very tiny hotel, on the very tiny, to be fair, on the seaside, and they light up fireworks for us. So it was very funny,
Brilliant.
And the day after, as you said, it was a very boring stage. You know, nothing really happened the whole day, and the leader was very fast and fronting. And I remember I have a good image of Miles Scottson, which is his brother racing for Decathlon CMA CGM. At the time was part of the leader, like battling very hard with the leader from Giacomo Nizzolo. And I was not pleased with my lead out, because he was super fast, and I felt I was slowing down, and yeah, we won it, but it was very narrow over, if I'm not mistaken, Calabi one was really on the line. So I was disappointed, you know, like you always try to get the perfect timing, the perfect speed, and I was always very critic to myself. And in that case, I was not very happy, but we got the victory nonetheless. So at the end, that was a good made-up, I would say.
Yeah, you remember that you beat, well, not you, your teammate Arnaud Demar beat Caleb Ewan into second place. Can you remember who finished third?
Maybe Kev?
Yes, what a memory you've got. And I'd forgotten as well that you also won the previous day in Messina. That's stage finish as well. So it's 2 out of 2 either side of the Messina Straits for Arnaud Demar in that year in which the team and Demar also won the Maglia Ciclamino. Are we going to have another Frenchman after Demar take the Maglia Ciclamino this year?
It looks like Magnier is a very fine form, and he has a good numbers of points ahead of Milan and all the rest. But let's not forget, a Giro d'Italia, a Grand Tour is very long. You just don't need just to win stages. You need to, first of all, to survive stages. You need to get to Rome, and you need to win also. Later on, there are going to be a lot of chances. As Paul Magnier last year was at the start line of the Giro d'Italia. He didn't finish by choice. He's still very young, so they decided just to, as an experience, to do a couple of weeks. So it goes into the unknown for the last week. So it's not just about winning. It's also about surviving in a way.
11th century abbey, dating back to the Norman conquest of southern Italy and Sicily. Very easy to forget that for a long time these territories were held by the Normans from the very north of France, which genealogists and scientists ascribe to the slight statistical unusualness of a lot of people from Sicily compared to other Italian regions. An unusually high number of people in Sicily have red hair, fair hair.
Yeah,
and that dates back to the Norman conquest.
Yeah, probably to remain in cycling, if you look at the face of Damiano Caruso, is almost red.
Yeah,
it's this yellow like color. How do you call it? Wheat? You know?
Yeah, exactly
color.
Right. Yep.
And yes, indeed, a lot of heritage and probably like looking like people from much north of the country.
Filippo Fiorelli's Sicilian as well, isn't he?
He's red.
He's red hair. Yeah. There you go.
Filippo Fiorelli won very good race the other day at Trobrole-Leon, freshly signing for Visma Lease bike, quite surprisingly, you know, despite he's not still young, but not in his prime years, you know.
Yep.
And he found a chance with the Visma Lease bike, and so far it's paying off, I would say.
Absolutely. There we are, the Tyrrhenian coast. Hone's interview, and you can see by the water there, you can see that that stiff breeze is just agitating the waves out to sea.
Somebody's enjoying the wind with some, is it kite surf, no, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's
I think it's
called.
kite surf.
But they're shifting. Look at the speed he's going. Looks difficult, I'll say that. Yeah,
I would say
looks technical.
Technical, and I think like you need very big abs to control this thing.
Way!
Yeah, kite surfing. So I was right. And there's also this new sport with the kind of like a kind of a windsurf, but they're holding it as well. It's a little bit different. Seems like it's like this one is on camera right now. And you see suspended from the water. I really don't know what's the name of it, but I know they can go very fast and very high as well.
I think if you're good at that, that must be an awful lot of fun. And if you're bad at it, it must be just terrifying.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Like the moment you start, you know you're not good at it. So you just need to be perseverance and going on and trying to get better.
Lovely colour though, isn't it, the Tyrrhenian here? Look at that dark blue reflecting the sky overhead. What a summery scene all of a sudden we have at the Giro d'Italia. It's been quite a cold spring really in Northern Europe and Europe in general. But summer has arrived.
Yeah, it's a good day here in Cosenza. It's quite covered at the moment, some clouds coming and a fresh breeze because, yeah, we're close to the sea, so very often the winds blowing here is quite refreshing.
Should be a bit of a headwind in the finish, which is slightly uphill as well,
Yeah,
Jacopo.
the finish itself, it's quite demanding. It's a little bit of twists and turns before heading to 500 meters to go. And then it's going to be this long drag. It looks like infinite from our point of view in here. And it picks up really at 50 meters to go, but already before, I think it's going to be a very demanding sprint because the riders are going to come out of the climb. So it's not like the freshest legs, and plus with this percentage, it's going to be a very interesting. You need very good timing to handle this because you don't want to start the sprint too early. And at the same time, I think there is a lot of room to, find your way through and then ultimately get to win. We're checking now the percentage of the last 500 meters is roughly 4%, but I reckon the last kicker is a little bit more.
There's the time gap being shown a couple of minutes ago to the breakaway group. 2 minutes and 7 seconds their gap. Might be a few seconds bigger than that now. More like 2:20, but they've earned themselves by some really aggressive riding in this breakaway as well. They all understood straight away what the tactic was, and at no point have they let up yet. Machalusi's suffering. Rafferty's a very aerodynamic rider. He's been playing his full part as well, the young lad.
That makes a lot of difference. Like the position Rafferty's having on the bike is much more aero, so spending definitely less energy than Machalusi, seated quite tall and high on the bike.
Now explain this, Jacopo. You can see in that slow motion replay that they've been rotating in 2 lines. That's been the formation up till this point. When we go back to live pictures, I think we'll see that their shape of the 6 riders at the front of the race has changed, and the way they're working has changed. They appear to be now in 1 line with a rider doing a turn on the front and then dropping back. So it's a slightly different formation. Let's just have a look. Well, we're back with the peloton, so next time we see the breakaway, you'll see what I mean. But they do, to cope with different winds and different situations, they will adopt different shapes, won't they?
Yeah, I think, of course, like turning in 6 is good for keeping the speed very high, but you never had a real moment of rest. You don't spend too much, but at the same time, you never rest enough. So sometimes they might change and go in just one line, but it's good to know that they're gonna change clockwise or anti-clockwise according to the wind. So usually what you do is to have the wind from the side of you're going backwards. So that's something like, in order to keep the speed high, the guys who are actually doing the speed, that decided the speed of this breakaway, they're gonna stay on the side covered by the other riders. So in this case, the wind is blowing not strong, but it's blowing from the left. So you could fairly expect that if they're gonna start again rotating, it's gonna be rotating anti-clockwise.
So the road at points here is very exposed now to at this point, a bit of a cross headwind, because they're still sort of gently turning and heading north on this part of the coast. But then after they've kind of reached their northerly trajectory, it will be a pure crosswind, straight off the sea. Machalusi working on the front. Under 100 kilometers to go. It was interesting to note last time we saw the peloton that Jaco Alula had moved up on the left-hand side of the bunch and actually just taken a position right towards the front. Now, I don't think they're going to do any riding. It's not obvious to me that they've got a rider to work for today, although I might be missing something obvious. I think it might be a little bit too hard for Pascal Ackermann. But what they are probably doing, Jaco Alula, like Net Company Ineos, is they're moving their GC rider up to the front to keep him safe now, just in case with this wind it does start to split.
Yeah, probably that's the main reason. They have a fast finisher, not a sprinter, but with Engelhardt, they might have a chance, if you come down to a very reduced bunch, to have a sprint. Probably is, like you said, they want to go up the front, checking how's the wind, because of course every team, every rider has a forecast. They've been checked before, but they want to rest assured, like, okay, you're on the bike, you need to feel how's the wind. So we might have information, the team car information, but ultimately other riders at the road that decide if it's much more useful to stay up front and protecting the leader. We saw the peloton was not anymore stretched out, so that might be an indication that the wind is actually stronger than the prediction, because everybody wants to assure that they can have a good position. Can also, you know, let your team like force the team to spend a little bit too much, you know, that you should. But it's their call, you know. You feel it if it's better to move up and stay in a much upfront position.
So we've had a bit of Norman architecture. This is 300-400 years later. 16th century tower built to look out to those seas to detect corsairs coming in, raiding parties. From North Africa and from the Middle East. Jonas Vingegaard and the Visma Lease bike team also moving up towards the front to keep themselves safe, because that is a very exposed road. Time gap has stopped growing now, and if anything, it's just coming down a little bit.
And this is possibly, in a way, for the teams who have some sort of interest in today's stage, can help them, you know, saving a little bit of energy, because the speed has increased naturally, because the GC teams want to keep their own position at the front, and that's why the speed has gone up and the gap has gone down. We just want to remember you the little arrows you see on the side of the gap, you know, under the peloton, the 2 minutes and 8 seconds. When you see the green arrows goes down, sorry, that means this the gap is going in favor of the peloton, so they're gaining time over the breakaway. In this case, as you see now, the red arrow pointing up means that the breakaway is gaining time over the peloton, which, you know, some days I wish like the green will be up, you know, like this is a positive thing, you know. Red is always for negative.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, actually. A little bit dispiriting, perhaps, for these 6 riders. They have been working incredibly hard over the opening hour and a bit of racing, but they've only got just over 2 minutes, that's tough. I mean, 96 kilometers to go, a peloton keeping them that tight. Some of the morale, some of the motivation might be beginning to just fade a little bit for these riders. Yes, we've got a rider back at the doctor's car, Samuele Battistella.
Was involved in the crash the other day. My riders, when they might feel some problem, they might ask the doctor for some basic medicaments, and that was the case. Yeah, 2 minutes. It's a hard call again, because how they're going to ride how is the peloton's going to ride on the climb? You know, how fast they're going to ride. So it's going to be very interesting. I think, like, if I can point out a name who's going to be at the front. As one moment we're going to see an abandon from the race, and it's Caden Groves who's abandoned the race.
Oh, what a shame! What a shame for Caden Groves. How disappointing! Rare start at the Giro d'Italia that hasn't resulted in a stage victory, and instead the unfortunate Caden Groves, who came to the Giro racing for the first time since he crashed out of Kuurne, Brussels Kuurne as well, and crashed violently on stage 1 and has had to step off now. So that's a massive disappointment for Caden Groves.
Yeah, we were asking ourselves if he was back in shape or good form, you know, back on healthy. But that's a big blow for the Belgian outfit of Alpecin Premier Tech.
Well, they kind of built their Giro around his chances as well.
And so far it was always very successful. Caden Groves in the last couple of years always scoring a victory, but won't be the case this year. As I think his program was finished the Giro d'Italia and as well the Tour de France like he did last year, but probably the feelings and sensation on the bike were not great, and he's heading home to get some rest and possibly recovery from the crash he sustained in stage 1.
And the only other thing to say about that, Jacopo, is that must be pretty serious for Caden Groves in terms of the pain he's in, because he is tough.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have just let go without a really good reason.
Exactly. So we were hoping Wilco Kelderman was the last rider affected by the crash. We were talking about second stage, but yeah, in this case, in case of Caden Groves, was the crash occurred in stage 1, and a big loss for the Giro d'Italia. Possible stage winner, definitely a protagonist of impossible many stages, but not the Giro he was hoping for. It's quite an unfortunate season for Caden Grove so far.
Yeah.
Been involved in many crashes and injuries. Let's hope that he's going to be back in form for the coming next races coming for in his program.
Well, cycling is a brutal sport, isn't it? And when one door closes, another door opens for another rider, and Jensen Plowright, I would imagine, will be his deputy now, and watch which sprints opportunities still remain in the Giro. Jensen Plowright will probably be the man who's going to have to try and see what he can do in the sprint.
Yeah, he was the dedicated lead out for Caden Groves along with Edward Plankard, so we might as well expect them trying to get some good results in the sprint, in the coming sprints. Why not today? I mean, Jensen Plowright at the if you read down and check the results he was having this year, especially in Paris-Nice, you know, in the very famous stage of the echelons, in an uphill finish got the best of Marc Soler, so a quite good climber, and you know, he just needs to survive, and it's not going to be an easy task, you know. It's a different type of race, different level as well, but he's going to try. I mean, I think today is not a climb that the riders give up without even trying, so I think we could fairly expect the whole peloton trying to get over the climb and stay in touch with the peloton, and then when you're on the top, you're going to realize if it's a good day for you or not.
It looks like another team might have just come to the front, or he's just crossing over the front of the peloton to get a feed from the side of the road. And another watchtower looking out over the Tyrrhenian coast. Time gap just not changing much, around about 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Taking a few more seconds back, have the breakaway. And we've got just over, around about 35 kilometers to go until the start of the climb. The San Lucido sprint is also simultaneously the beginning of the Cozzotono climb.
Yeah, according to talk, we had the talks with some amateur riders of the zone. They said the climb is actually very, very hard, and of course, like the level of amateurs is completely different than professionals. But just to give an indication that you have to fight hard for this climb. That's Pinarello, with a reflection in the car. Pinarello. Sometimes the public might get confused because there is a Pinarello rider.
Yes.
And a Pinarello Q36.5, the team.
Yeah.
So we'll try to make it clear every time.
Went for a cafe ride yesterday, Team NSN, and released a little video on social media, as is the way in 2026. And Pinarello was having to put up with all the international riders on his team ordering in the late afternoon or the middle of the afternoon, ordering cappuccinos after 11 o'clock.
I mean, I think with every Italian that raced from a team abroad, the team itself expect the Italian to complain what time they're having cappuccinos, you know. So we have almost to keep up with the pace of the high expectation of your cliches.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
and we love to do it as well. But it's fun because every time they sometimes they ask you, there is a timeline, you know, what time is not good anymore. And I mean, there is not like the bells of the church ringing when it's not anymore.
Maybe they should. Maybe they should. Every church bell should ring.
For now, yeah. No more cappuccinos for you guys.
Exactly. So that's a good disciplined bit of riding by XTS Astana, and Maglia Rosa has moved up onto the rear wheel of his teammates. They're all over the front, and that's just in case this wind presents an opportunity for a team just to try and do something. But it doesn't look like it's going to, at least not for now. It's not strong enough, that wind, and there's no prolonged sections. What you really need for echelons is open farmlands, don't you? This is too built up. There are too many houses along the way.
Yeah, and plus the wind is not strong enough at this point. Otherwise, you will see even more stress. Even, you know, when you know it might not happen, you will see more teams at the front. The rider for Decathlon CMA CGM is actually, in fact, Gudmestad, Thor Gudmestad, the strong Norwegian, the dedicated leader rider for Tobias Lund Andersen. So the choice of the team, which rider is going to control the race, it's landed on Gudmestad, possibly the lesser climber in the field for for Decathlon. They know if Tobias Lund Andersen gonna survive this climb, you won't need much of a pure lead out because it won't be like the whole peloton up in there.
Wearing the blue dotard number, Manuele Tarozzi. Here's my little test of your Giro regulations, Jacopo, your knowledge of the regulations this year. What is the blue dotard number for?
This I know. It's the winner of the Red Bull kilometer in the previous stage.
Correct. That's brilliant. Brilliant. He didn't even look at his notes. Yeah, that was...
Because I don't have any.
Manuele Tarozzi. But most notably, he was part of that three-rider group with Alessandro Tonelli, Diego Sevilla, that nearly held off the sprint in Sofia.
Yeah.
So close.
But it was good because he knew, anyway, like, we always think like the riders knew, oh, they don't stand a chance. But after he won the Red Bull kilometer, he was immediately at the front. He didn't even stop after the sprint for a second. He just continued riding hard. And once Sevilla and Tonelli rejoined him, like the trio just continued. And well, it was a very good day for Tarozzi, Tonelli, and Sevilla, and they got us believing they were able to do it. It wasn't the case, but nonetheless was a very good stage and a very good moment to commentating on.
Long straight road ahead. That is a stretch of road for a couple of kilometers that is sort of perfect for the creation of echelons if the wind were strong enough and in the right direction.
A lot of people on the road here in Calabria. Nice to see so many people hitting the road, celebrating and cheering for the riders of the Giro d'Italia. We are at the back with Arieta, Deli, Menten.
Shirt backs, James Shaw there. Emmanuel Gebrekjabir, who normally would be doing a bit of work for Lidl Trek on the front, but Lidl Trek allowing all the other teams to control this race. But watch out for Lidl Trek later.
They have option today because for those of you who missed the beginning of the Today Live with the interview to Sobrero, one of the, I would say, lieutenant or domestic kind of multi-tool of the team. They say we got option, and it's actually true because if the race itself won't be hard enough to drop the sprinter, they have a big, in every possible sense, card with Milan. Otherwise, if it goes down to much more climbing riders, then Ciccone, who features a very good punch, might come in play and go and try to go the hunt. And if Ciccone is there and winning, and none of the opponents score any bonuses, any podium, so the first three position doesn't feature Stork, Bernal, Arsman, or Silva, he might as well be in pink. So, I mean, there is a lot of things can happen, today.
Average speed now they've hit the coast is going up and up and up. It's a little short of 45 kilometers an hour now, the average speed, since they have started racing at kilometer 0. You can see a little bit the effect of the wind there and those diagonal shapes of the single file riders towards the front of the bunch. Riders instinctively seeking out the shelter just to the right-hand side of the wheel in front of them.
Yeah, it's sometimes I think for riders explaining echelons or like what you do when there is wind is so hard, because it comes just natural, like you're just seeking for shelter, you're just looking for the best place to have a slipstream and some draft, and that's it. Like basically you can always say that, oh, you're just looking for draft, and when it's blowing hard from the side you need to stay, like the position Larsen is now a little bit much closer to the wheel and on a side of the rider in front of you.
Then they're doing it without even thinking about it, isn't it? It's pure instinct. The sensations, the feeling, the wind, just even with the rocking motion of the pedal stroke, you can feel just on your shoulder when you come out of that pure wind shadow. You can just feel it, and then unconsciously you'd adjust back in, and that leads you to. It's quite beautiful to watch, isn't it, actually? Each rider in almost exactly the same position without even knowing they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly, because you feel like a rider, like you all know how important, how much a big impact that the wind can have on a race and the draft. So they feel it like, where is the best position to save energy? So they just tuck in the bikes, and where do you go, like on the side of, and you feel like immediately that the power you have to impress on your pedals is much lower when you found the right spot, which is on the other side of the wind. So the wind blowing from the left, you just need to stay on the right and very close, I would say, with the front wheel more or less at this that matches the back wheel of the rider in front of you.
Jonas Vingegaard often uses these live cameras, I think, that come alongside him, a rider of his status, to communicate with his family at home. Not the only rider to have done that, actually, down the years. I remember Chris Froome telling me that one of the things that I think people underestimated about Chris Froome throughout his career was his ability to bluff, to make it look like he was really suffering when he wasn't. He used to do that a lot, especially in the Tour de France. And he had a secret sign that if he felt the camera coming up alongside him, he would give this secret sign to his wife at the time, Michelle, just to indicate so that she knew it was a bluff, so that she knew he was feeling absolutely fine.
We know what was it?
He never told me. I asked him, because he wasn't going to tell me. It was a secret. But I think that's a message.
When he
well, I have. Maybe he'd tell me now. Maybe I'll send him a message. What was that secret sign that he used to do?
Campanaz is another rider, pretty much like doing faking suffering on the bike in order to get a chance once in the breakaway. But I think once they caught you bluffing, I mean, the GC, you have to be there, but the breakaway, you know, doesn't happen that often. That he was like, I know Campanaz, he was keeping turns. Oh, I'm dead. I can't.
Yeah.
Like after a couple of times, they know, like,
come on,
bluffing.
Yeah. Il fait du cinéma.
Il fait du cinéma. I know, Ned, you like now that we're going to go more deep with French terms in here.
I know. I think it's great. You raced with French riders for so long. Your Italian is infused with French. Your English is infused with French, and you are actually during this commentary changing the language of the English language of cycling by just dropping in new French terms that our English-speaking audience don't know.
But you know,
bagarre was your first
bagarre.
one. Bagarre. Yeah. Grand bagarre, which is what is it? A scrap, a fight.
Yeah, a big fight for something. You know, bagarre, when the riders go nuts, so they start going left and attacking left and right. Grand plateau, which is the
big plate.
Yeah, big
dinner plate.
No, it's actually referring to the front. Technically it's the big plate, but it's referring to the how do you call it? Crank? No, the crank is the arm.
The cog. The gear,
the plate.
The plate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but
it's also they do. There's a phrase in English, the big dinner plate. So it's like the big plate you have at the buffet.
Also in Italian. I think also in French.
Yeah.
Le Grand Plateau.
Yeah. But it sounds better in French.
It sounds charming. But I am doing this just to sound charming, you know, on the commentary.
I mean, cycling in Italy is an incredibly old adventure. It's been going well over 100 years, but the real origins of the sport do date back to France, road racing. And even now in 2026, some of the language of bike racing is still French, isn't it? And it always will be. One of my favourite things is in the Garibaldi, in the road book, that we have to look at every single day to know where we're going to. There's a three-letter initial in every road book, whether it's the Tour of Britain, the Limburg Volta Classic, the Tour of Hainan, wherever it is in the world, you will find a PPO.
Yeah. Point de passage obligatoire.
Which is French. Is French. It's absolutely brilliant.
But I think, like as you said, like cycling dates back so much in France that, and even the UCI, so the Union Cyclisme Internationale, is based in French, in the French-speaking part of Swiss, is in Lausanne.
And it was founded in Paris.
Like now, UCI have two official languages, which is French in first place and English in second. So even every document have to be written down like in the local language of the race. So in the case of the Giro d'Italia, every day we receive the commissar notes, or how do you say, the
reports.
The report, exactly. It is in Italian and then English, or in French, or three languages. But it needs to feature at least or either English or French. But I think the most funny thing is like when the riders, like what often happens, you know, like we saw today, there is bagarre again to go in the breakaway. So a lot of fights, a lot of attacks to go in the breakaway. Once the breakaway has gone, if the team was willing to control the race or willing to communicate with the other, like, okay, this is it, we don't want anybody else going in the breakaway, they're gonna shout like pisse, literally mean like P, stopping for a P.
Yep.
And that's the occasion because all the riders, once the breakaway is established, they're gonna stop for P.
Yeah.
Because that's the first moment, whatever type of terrain you have to face, you know, it's really like, you can use him either on a pure flat stages or even when it comes down to much more mountain stages. Very vital role inside the little track squad.
Yeah, you make a very good point. He is an excellent climber, Aminul Gurbachev. In fact, it's kind of how he started his career. Coming from Eritrea, that is the tendency, that is the sort of like the characteristics of most Eritrean riders tend to be climbers. But Gurbachev has found a very, very distinctive role within this team that he executes brilliantly. Ballerini on the front now for XTS Astana. Vingegaard switched on with his team as he has been throughout pretty much, thinking about where to position himself and his team in the bunch all the time. Up towards the front, looking pretty relaxed. And so far, so good. But we are barely started really in the Giro d'Italia. Haven't had a proper GC day yet. Won't have necessarily a really absolutely cast iron GC day until we get to Blockhouse in 3 days' time.
Yeah, I found it hard to believe the GC team would be implied in today's stage. You never know, because again, if they make the race hard enough to drop all the sprinters and all the possible, you know, winner apart from the first 30, the Maglia Rosa might be up for grab. It's really a demanding test.
Yeah, wasn't really expecting them to do what they did on stage 2, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Ismail bike and in fact, Jonas Vingegaard attacked.
Yeah, it was probably a matter of they had this thought like, okay, it was very slippery, there was a massive crash. They thought, okay, it's better to be up front, you know, having a reduced bunch rather than just stay there and hoping that nobody crashes. So I think that was the main goal for Vingegaard in that day and the Visma bike. But it's the beginning of the Giro, so that means like a lot of energy into the legs of all the riders. So if you want to try something else, it's a short stage after a rest day. You need to be fast, and it's going to be fast.
Two sprinters in conversation. Paul Magnier wearing that maglia ciclamino. How long will he be wearing it for? Will he wear it now all the way to Rome? It's not impossible. Far from it. Is today going to be a little bit too hard for him, though? We'll have to wait and see. I think Groenewegen would be more vulnerable than Paul Magnier on this climb.
Yeah, I think the Unibet Rose Titema today, they might have a car, depending how the race goes, with Lukas Kubic, the Slovakian national champions. With Dylan Groenewegen, I think it might be a little bit too much for him, but you never know. All depends how they want to ride out. If I would be, I mean, Tobias Lund Andersen, the sprinter for Decathlon CMA CGM, he's shown already that he has his eyes on this stage, on today's stage, by having Thor Gudmestad at the front pulling. If I would be him, I would do the climb at my own term, like deciding what the rhythm. And he's a good climber, despite being a sprinter. So I will make it as hard as possible to drop all the opponents for today's stage.
Well, you are going to be seeing a lot more of this over the coming 3 weeks of the Giro d'Italia. A beautiful medieval hilltop town. This very distinctively, though, in Calabria. And as we make our way up the Apennines, crisscrossing from west to east and east to west, eventually, before we get to the Po River Valley and then into the mountains of the great mountains of the north, we are going to be seeing so many hilltop towns. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, Calabria is a very distinctive and unique geography. As we said, it's a very narrow peninsula in the Italian, the point of Italy, you know, of
toe.
Exactly. Yeah. And it features very high mountains. There is the Parco della Sila, and you can go from zero from the seaside up to more than 2,000 meters in very few kilometers. And that's the unique of this region. Is despite being featuring so many kilometers of coastline, it features very, very high mountains. And in fact, there's almost no flat around the region.
As they're going to discover, because San Lucido is right on the coast, and that's where the sprint is, but it's also the start of the climb. So as soon as they turn right, they're going uphill.
Yeah, and the riders know very well what lays ahead of them.
Martin Marcinuzzi not look particularly comfortable in this very dynamic breakaway group who have pushed on, stabilised their effort a little bit as the temperature on the race starts to go up a little bit and riders frantically trying to cool down. Nicholas Larsen pouring water over his back in the breakaway.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like so hot, but apparently for the riders on that side of the sea, because we are a little bit more inland, I experience a much higher temperatures.
Mausoleum then, dating back to the fascist era in Italian history that came to an end, of course, with the demise of Benito Mussolini and the end of the Second World War. Sea behind, looking absolutely sparkling. It's hot afternoon sunshine. 3:30 local time, pretty much the hottest part of the day right now. And the time gap is down to just under 2 minutes for the first time in a long time now. 12k to go until the sprint and the start of the climb. When they do come off this road and up into the mountains, the climb will be made a little bit faster, a little bit easier by the fact that predominantly it'll be a tailwind that's going to assist them up and over the climb. Yeah,
the climb itself is quite churning a lot of airplanes, both on the way up and the way down. So having a good position is also important, because sometimes when you have turns and a lot of turns, you might be forced to use too much brakes if you are seated at the back. So I think there's going to be a little fight, not huge fight, but nonetheless some fight to get a good position. But nonetheless, a descent like this might help also riders coming back and rejoining the peloton. As we often say, when the descent features a lot of airpits and turns, it stretches out the whole peloton, the whole car convoy, and this might go in favor of some of the riders like lesser strong, you know, in the climb to come back.
It's quite interesting, Jacopo, to see Tord Gudmestad working on the front. Don't forget, on stage 1, he finished 8th. He was the last lead-out man for Tobias Lund Andersen, but he's being used differently today, and that would imply that I think the fact that he is expending himself now and doing his work now, he doesn't think he'll get over the climb. Otherwise, he wouldn't be working now.
But again, I think because they had a clear goal today, the team, and I think this goal is to go, like, I will expect, like Tobias Lund Andersen, seated in third or fourth wheel on the climb, escorted by some teammates, and dictating the tempo, deciding what tempo he wants to have, and he's a good climber. So I think their expectation is to drop the much more pure climbers, such as Milan, Groenewegen, Magnier, and in that case you might need less help, let's say, from a teammate, and the sprint itself in here, it's quite demanding one. It's not going to be super fast, because from the last, let's say, from the Red Bull kilometer on, it's going to be a long drag uphill. It's not much, it's going to be 1-2%, but it's not going to be super fast. And the sprint itself, you need to enter the city, crossing a bridge at 1 kilometer to go, before plunging a little bit, before coming back up again at the finish line. So I think they know lead out is like a pure lead out, that's what I mean, is less vital than a proper sprint stage. Yeah, it's a really interesting detail that though, isn't it, that Gudmestad's doing what he's doing right now, because it says a lot about what their intentions are. Because the fact that they have decided, they've actively taken the decision to sacrifice Gudmestad right now means that they're not even going to give him a chance to survive the climb, which means that they're not going to follow the wheels, they're going to dictate the terms. As they, is that Deli coming to a halt in the feed zone? No, it wasn't Deli, but it was Van Ettel, so probably
there's Deli.
Yeah, probably was just a stop to get something from the Swanee. But that's the position we're going to see him the wall there. I don't think it's going to come on the front. He's just going to try to survive the day.
Well, I think, to be honest, Jacob, if that's the position he's in all day, I think he'd be absolutely delighted. I think the likelihood is he's going to be off the back at some point on the climb. The question is, how many riders will wait for him? What sort of gap will he have to make up over the top? And what sort of group forms on this climb?
Here is a common problem that often happens, like the Swanee from Pontevisit Malta didn't so Sevilla due to his blue jersey. Is not like, because when you're giving out biddens, I don't know if anybody has ever experienced it, it's very demanding because they're coming fast and you try to look for your riders. So you just try to pick up details of the detail of the jersey of your team you're working for. And when you have a little jersey, okay, the pink is quite distinctive. It's a little bit easier to spot, but the blue might get confused with other teams. So that's what happened in there.
Diego Sevilla, as a result of his blue jersey, missing out on a bottle there. Warren Bagui calling for a bottle, calling for his team car to bring one forward. Bagui, if you were to ride to victory here in the Giro d'Italia, would complete the set of Grand Tours stage wins, yet to win a stage of the Giro d'Italia. I think his last victory came in Italy, though, didn't it? Last year in Tirreno Adriatico. Somewhat out of the blue, slightly unexpected. Hasn't been able to follow it up with any really convincing form.
And it then goes back to 2022, or a long time ago.
Rafferty still looking very possessed, very in control of his position. Still looks pretty fresh.
We might think Rafferty among the six up front is probably the most capable climber at this point. And if you want to stand a chance, he needs to go as hard as possible on the climb and trying to gain time over the peloton. I think if he managed, or somebody else actually managed to stay in contact with him, with a couple of riders, if they can press this climb with 3 minutes, they stand a chance. Because again, that's going to be the game, or kind of the deal with the climb. At the back, they need to ride hard, but they don't have to drop Tobias Lund Andersen or the sprinters. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to do and how they're going to approach the climb with both the breakaway now on your screen and the peloton.
Fiumefreddo Bruzio, the next little town. The tall palm tree as well, telling you we're in Calabria, we're in the deep south of Italy, southwest of Italy. There's a town in there's a little town in Sicily as well called Fiumefreddo, isn't there? On the side of Mount Etna, that is often covered in volcanic ash when Etna decides to erupt.
And it decides quite often, I would say.
Yeah.
As you pointed out correctly some moments ago, despite the sea at the back, this common sightsee of Italy, villages on top of little hills and nested in the mountains. It's a clear sight of the Apennini.
Now then, heading towards the climb, you can see that a number of teams on this big wide road are starting to get themselves organised. Significantly, perhaps, Netcompany Ineos have moved up to the front. They often like to take up a position on one side of the road. They're at it again. NSN as well, just infiltrating their train just a little bit. But Egan Bernal is on the wheel of Filippo Ganna on the right-hand side of the road, the left-hand side of your screen.
Yeah, and on the right there was little track as Decathlon. They were trying to rejoin each other.
I don't think we're going to see too much action from these six at the intermediate sprint. I don't think there's too much at stake. The points are of no relevance whatsoever. The only thing that might interest one or two of them, possibly Marcellusi, being one of the junior riders in this group, is the cash incentive for first place at the sprint. Other than that, I don't think there's too much reason for them to break their harmonious work that they've got together as Arnaud Demar drops back for a word with his team car.
Yeah, the team car features our former rider Maxime Bouet, Frenchman newly recruited for the Lot Intermarché, and Adrien Petit also newly retired. So a couple of Frenchies.
Is Tony Galopin still part of that?
No,
setup? He left.
He actually left the team. He was he signed a contract, if I'm not mistaken, with Red Bull, but then he decided to didn't go through. So this year is not featured in any team car.
Yeah, there is Maxime Bouet,
Frenchman from Marseille. Giving some award. I mean, they give some morale to the young, talented Belgian rider in the Ardennes, Arnaud Delis. He just needs to survive and take it day by day as long as he can. I think if he can survive tomorrow, if he sees some improvement in Naples, he might have a chance. I think if he's still in the race, it's like, if you look the difference between him and Caden Groves, who retired some kilometers ago, the difference is like, probably Delis felt he's getting better day by day, although like maybe not as fast as he was hoping, but he's getting better. That's why he's still in the race. But probably Caden Groves was just even feeling much worse than he was at the beginning, and ultimately that's the decision. That's why he decided, okay, it's time better to go home and put some patches on your wounds and trying to get better for the next races.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether Caden Groves now has a chance that he might have otherwise not had of going to the Tour de France. Of course, last year they sent Mathieu van der Poel, Jasper Philipsen and Caden Groves all to the Tour de France.
Yeah, and it was a very successful year last year for Caden Groves, winning one stage at the Giro and one stage at the Tour de France.
Philipsen also, of course, claimed the yellow jersey on stage one. Mathieu van der Poel took a stage in the yellow jersey, so and then Caden Groves with that heroic solo victory. So they had a very good year at the Tour with all three of their big stars. .6 kilometers to go to San Lucido. Jacobs gets onto the front. Rock steady his position on the bike, the Swiss rider. Time gap shrinking though. Not dramatically, but it's certainly not going out, and it's down to just 1:51 now. Barguil looks like he's suffering a little.
It's not his speciality, the
long, flat coastal road. Yeah, he'll be yearning for the gradients of the climb where he can express himself a little bit more. Union Jack being waved aloft. Not that many British riders really in this peloton. Who is there? James Shaw. There's young Bob Donaldson. There was colours of Jaco Alula.
Adam Yates was part of it.
Of course he was. Of course he was. Yeah, before disaster struck for UAE, their three big GC aspirants all wiped out within a split second of one another.
Garofoli getting the beaten. Sudal quick step. There is always smiling Tarozzi. Can rest a little bit more than usual today.
Teammate representing his team, Bardiani CSF, in the breakaway. So Bardiani themselves, they've only missed one breakaway in, and they didn't try, they didn't miss it,
yeah.
They just didn't. They ignored it. It's exactly the word I'm after on stage two.
We are 2 kilometers from the San Lucido intermediate sprint, and after that it's going to be time for the, can I say mighty?
No.
No?
I think you're going to have to save that word for the Dolomites and the Alps.
But I'm going to use that again.
Passo Giao is mighty, Jacopo.
But I was a sprinter myself, so everything more than a kilometer was mighty.
Some of these riders, I think, of even feeling this little rise here as a bit of a mighty climb. It's been hard. This breakaway, they've had to earn this 1 minute 40, 1 minute 50 advantage the hard way. Made the peloton behind. Those riders who've been working hard, they've made them work very hard, but it's been pretty much flat out for the 6 riders at the front. And there we go. So it's a slight uphill rise to the sprint.
Lucido nested a little bit higher than sea level. As it was more common for older town in Italy, especially in the south, been, you know, living nearby Greece Empire, the Phoenix. All the villages were much higher in the mountain in order them to protect in case of an invasion. Very good example is Sicily, all the Syracuse region. It's featuring villages nested really high in the mountains because well, the coastline was dangerous back then. Nobody really want to live nearby some fighting neighborhoods. 20 degrees on the breakaway as we see now. The wind has gone down 10 km/h.
Yep.
But very soon it won't matter anymore because it's gonna get very hot for everybody. It's timing.
Already starting to climb a little bit. Inside 1 kilometre to go until the sprint. For a little reminder of who's in the breakaway: Martin Marcellucci, Darren Rafferty, the young Irishman Johan Jacobs, Swiss time trialist Warren Barguil, great French climber, Mathieu Bais, breakaway specialist from Polte Visit Malta, and Nicholas Larsen, the Danish ruler. Those 6 riders then. Good to see the Unibet Rosa Rockets get themselves represented in a breakaway in their first ever Giro participation, or indeed any Grand Tour. And this is their first presence in a Grand Tour breakaway. Nicholas Larsen flying the blue and pink flag for Unibet Rose Rockets. It is, however, not Mathieu Bais nor Martin Marcellucci's first presence in a breakaway in the Tour of Italy. This is exactly what they come to the race to do, as Mathieu Bais fancies the victory in the intermediate sprint. Marcellucci stays put. Bais goes off the front. And that makes tactical sense as well, because of course his teammate is leading that classification. So he's just limiting the points that anybody else could pick up at the sprint.
Yeah, and it was uncontested. Nobody was willing to go and try to do this sprint, as the next climb is about to approach. So Kebais get away with the victory in intermediate sprint. All the points being taken by the riders, and as you see, we are at the bottom, the feet of the climb.
Well, the 6 riders at the front take a measly 1 minute and 35 seconds onto a 14.5 kilometre climb. Got to an elevation gain of over 850 metres over the course of those 14.5 kilometres. The average slope is just under 6%, which is not nothing, and it's got a maximum gradient of 11%. It's a Category 2 climb. It's the toughest test of the Giro d'Italia so far.
It's a proper climb, and coming after 3 relative... sorry, I got a tight tongue for a moment.
Relatively, yep.
Easy stages in Bulgaria. All the riders are quite fresh. The stage itself is not too long, and we could have expected, just despite it's just one climb, that is going to be fireworks, as the peloton itself is going to start this climb very soon in about 10-15 seconds. You saw, it seems like the very first kick of the climb is the hardest part of it, as the whole little track is gathered around us. Tottenberg at the front, leading out Max Walsh, Derek G at the back of it, Ciccone, Milan, and they're on to the climb as well.
So it's Intermarché Lotto, Leonard van Eertveld's team, who take the race onto the climb. Jonas Vingegaard moving to the front there for Visma Lease bike, actually riding on the front, just briefly perhaps, as he repositions himself on the wheels of his team, but right up there alongside Bart Lemon and Victor Campenaerts. Ineos Grenadiers then, or Net Company Ineos I should say, as they often are, on the right-hand side of the bunch.
And as often happens, you know, just the stress to replace yourself to get a good position at led the peloton 1 minute on the breakaway. As at the back, there's some riders already struggling to hold the pace, are not even trying.
Yeah.
to do so. Actually, it was
Price
Fabian
Pedersen,
Lennart,
yeah.
Price Petersen.
Emmanuel Gebrekshabir as well.
He was working.
As you predicted,
yeah,
he did get to the front and did a lot of work.
It was a lead out basically for those riders in order to enter the climb in the best possible position. But Lidl seemed like the Gaudi rider sitting in a very good position ahead of this, and Deli, as expected.
Well, instantly Arnaud Deli is dropped.
Timo Kilic as well was used by the Visma Lease bike to approach the climb. But as you see, the peloton is not stretched over. That means the speed is not too high at the moment. It's just controlling. Tobias Lund Andersen already at the front for Decathlon CMA CGM.
Lotto Antomache are gambling here that a gruppetto will form fairly quickly and that Deli will have some wheels to work with, because they haven't sent any of their team, as they did 2 days ago. They haven't sent anyone back to help him.
But yes, all the other riders who have been already distanced at the back.
Yep.
And now Decathlon is managed to find their way through the front, and ideally they're going to start riding is Mühlberger for the French squad. Along with him is Pedersen right on the wheel, and Mühlberger is going to be the dedicated rider to impress her in, seems like.
Well, that acceleration from the bunch heading towards the foot of the climb has had a pretty devastating effect on the time gap, which is down from 1:35 to 55. 1.5 kilometers of the climb done already for the breakaway. As Mathieu Bais shares his liquid, shares a drink there with effectively his teammate, Martin Marcellucci. It's in the best interests of these 6 riders for now on this long, long climb to stick together. Now then, Movistar picking it up.
They have Aular, is a good climber, and they have all the interest to make things harder for the sprinters, much more pure sprinters. Is Milesi,
yeah,
the Italian, the time trialist from Bergamo.
He's going to be used up early. Now he's going pretty hard, is Lorenzo Milesi. Little gap opens up.
Probably started even too hard, you know, for such a long climb. He is going to be in charge of keeping the speed very high for a long time, so...
Already this is looking like it's going to be a very, very unsprinter-friendly ascent of this climb. You can see Jonathan Milan, he's not badly placed actually, around about 40 places back, but already having to work very hard just to hold the wheels and starting to suffer already. Timur Arensman and Egan Bernal up towards the front. Damage continuing. Erland Blikra is the next sprinter to be dropped, along with Malicelli of XDS Astana. And they are joined by Picnic Post NL's rider Timo de Jong, Domestique. Chris Harper in the purple of Jaco Alula, sitting on the wheel of Diego Ulissi, who in turn is on the wheel of Gregor Mühlberger, the Austrian rider from Decathlon.
Ulissi in third wheel, then is Vingegaard Kampenaert. It's Dylan Groenewegen, first of the big sprinting name, the first victim of them. We were expecting him not the best parkour for the strong and but heavy Dutch sprinter.
Blikra, in terms of the sprinters, we've seen Blikra, Deli and Groenewegen already dropped. As Movistar continue with this tactic, even Garcia Cortina gets to the front. He won't be expected to last too long on this climb, so they're dispensing with the services of Lorenzo Milesi and Garcia Cortina now. And Movistar have really, they're the team, perhaps a little bit surprisingly, to really take this up. But you're right, in Aular, they have got a very, very good prospect to do something special at the finish line today.
It was surprisingly, I saw Cortina moving up at the front, and possibly we're going to see him leading, which himself is a good climber and a fast finisher. So quite a surprise to see Cortina, but they know the climb is long. They cannot just use one rider to make the difference here. So they need to use as well Cortina. But let's wait and see where are the much more pure sprinter. David Sevilla is getting distance already.
Yeah.
Dion Smith at the front of him from NSN, Max Walscheid as well, Tim Ton Teutenberg. Two Germans of a little track were also struggling to hold the pace, but you see this.
Sorry to interrupt, Jacob, I think that was Milan off the back as well. I think Jonathan Milan has been dropped, yeah. think he's gone. So he didn't last too long, Jonathan Milan. And now we are starting to see the shape of this race. The sprinters are not going to make it to the finish line, possibly with one exception. Tobias Lund Andersen, he's the man to look out for now because, well, Magnier is still there. You can see the Maglia Ciclamino in around about 40th place, just going around the apex of that corner now. But Tobias Lund Andersen is a few places ahead of him, and he's still well in the peloton.
Yeah, the indication of how fast is the speed for the peloton is they are pretty much in a long line. Whether to be seen how much they can last, the riders here, is Garcia Cortina at the front, followed by Milesi. Then it's Mühlberger, Ulissi, O'Connor, Bartolemme at the back, Piganzoli replacing himself with Sepp Kuss and Jonas Vingegaard. Maglia Rosa right behind Jonas Vingegaard.
Thomas Silva looking absolutely perfect at the moment, still exactly where he needs to be. But the longer this goes on, the more and more you're just going to see pure climbers towards the front. Garcia Cortina and Milesi won't perhaps last too much longer before they explode and their work is done.
Yeah, and it's going to be up to other riders from the Movistar team to maintain this rhythm and gap. Marcellusi here getting distance by the companion in the breakaway.
Yeah.
Coming back on Movistar, I think we spotted Oliveira, sorry, at the back looming, so he's probably the next one in line.
Ethan Vernon, another sprinter, gone. And he's been dropped with that rider there from Soudal Quickstep, who is Aiko Bastians. Good ride from Ivan Garcia Cortina. Milesi, look at a picture of suffering on his wheel, the two Movistar riders doing a great job here, and they're bringing the breakaway back. 18 seconds now as Mathieu Bais goes clear of Darren Rafferty. That's the end of the adventure for Johan Jacobs, for Nicholas Larsen and for Warren Barguil. But Bais wants at least to win the Combativity Award for the day and the breakaway prize, but he's got Darren Rafferty for company. That's the front of the race. This is the peloton, and Diego Garcia Cortina continues this great ride he's doing.
One question mark about how they're riding would be like, because from the top you still need to have numbers in order to ride till the finish line, so they need to be a little bit more conservative, as Cortina seems like he's about to finish his job. Then it's going to be Milesi, but he looked also quite in pain as Barguil completely exploded at the front. He's getting overtaken also by Marcellusi, but for the breakaway it's no-go. They're going to soon be called by the full peloton, still led by Cortina, seems like at the very end of his effort. Jonathan Milan is now distanced.
Yep. Milan has dropped. Magnier is still there. So too is Lund Andersen. Just a little gap opening up, but not one that Jonathan Milan will be able to shut down, I don't think, and get back into the wheels. And significantly stay in the wheels, because this huge climb has still got 10.4 kilometers to go.
Yeah, it's not still very far from the finish line, from the finish, sorry, of this climb, so it's going to be an impossible task for Milan to rejoin the front, as Movistar now took completely control of the front. Still Cortina, I think is Milesi still there, yeah, Oliveira in third wheel, and then is Aular in fourth wheel, the Venezuelan national champion.
Jacopo, the Maglia Rosa is beginning to slip a little bit. He's no longer visibly up there in the top 10 places. There's Jonas Vingegaard looking for that jersey of Thomas Silva, and he's dropped a few places, so maybe he's starting to suffer just a little bit by this infernal pace that's being set by Movistar.
Still a long way for them to till the top. Here is Pascal Ackermann, another sprinter being distanced with Simone Consonni, the lead-out rider for Jonathan Milan.
Not too many left now in terms of sprinters, are there? Just Magnier and Lund Andersen at this point?
Yeah, Maestri also at the back, but for the moment, I think like if you can list a little bit of the sprinters, there is Aular, of course, Corbin Strong, Paul Magnier, and Tobias Lund Andersen.
That's about it. And at the front of the race, Mathieu Bais is doing a really good ride here in the company of Darren Rafferty. Marcellusi's been caught. Ivan Garcia Cortina continues to turn himself inside out, and Magnier now has been dropped. So that does just leave Tobias Lund Andersen, by my reckoning, of the specialist sprinters who's up there. But look at it, it's starting to splinter and shatter at the back. Michael Pierre is also dropped. Sepp Kuss, Piganzoli, Campenart, Bart Lemon, Jonas Vingegaard. They've lost Wilco Kelderman today, but that big yellow armada is still there. Gregor Mühlberger of Decathlon is up towards the front. And there is Thomas Silva. Well, 10 kilometers from the top, he lets go, and that is it. That is the end of his spell in pink. No recovery here for Thomas Silva, not if he's been dropped that far from the top of the climb.
And along with him is Alberto Bettiol trying to helping rejoining the front as Juanpe Lopez also distanced. Lukas Kubic was a little bit ahead of them, but seems like not many sprinters left. At this point, we see Felix Scala looming at the back from Decathlon. CMA, CGM. Mulberg is still well placed at the front, where we haven't seen Tobias Lund Andersen neither getting dropped or in the peloton. So if eventually will happen, sure thing is going to be caught on camera.
Trio of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe riders, including Pelletari, Jai Hindley and Aliotti. They are there, but not many more than that. There are very few teammates left. Mattia Bais and Darren Rafferty have an advantage now of 45 seconds over the Maglia Rosa group. If you're hearing funny noises on my and Jacopo's microphone, that's because a publicity caravan has just arrived at the finish line to hype up the crowd as if they needed that, and being treated to a dance display. It has the slight unintended consequence of being painful to try and commentate against, but we'll work with it as well because it's ear-splittingly loud here at the moment.
Yeah, but it does match as what we're seeing now, like a very rhythm. Iris Lund Andersen is, I think, is getting distance as
just beginning to open up that gap.
It's with Manier, so that means Lukas Kubic. This is the group of the sprinters. If they manage to stay together, that's a good group. Maybe later on to rejoin the front, because let's not forget, like, this is the climb. You need to make damage on the climb, but you need also to go till the line. From the top is going to be still 48 kilometer. No, sorry, 30. My bet it was 42 kilometers from the top.
43k from the top.
And going to be present a little bit of flat path before plunging down, so still a long way. And now Movistar seems like they just have left with Milesi. Then it's going to be Oliveira, but at the back a lot of groups are merging and they might still be in contention for the victory.
Lorenzo Milesi is going very, very deep here. Oliveira, the veteran Portuguese former time trial specialist, is looking very comfortable. Or Luis Aular on his wheel. Then comes Diego Ulissi rolling back the years. Some good climbing from Ulissi, but his team leader has been dropped. The Maglia Rosa group is now 1 minute and 3 seconds to the front of the race, and the peloton is bearing down on Rafferty and Bais at 11 seconds.
I think the peloton might have slowed it down a little bit in order to maintain as much rider as possible from Movistar, because this duo, which were already in the breakaway, haven't lost much time, much ground in the last kilometer and a half, and possibly Movistar had to, once they did the damage, they dropped the sprinters. Now they need to control. They need to, I think they want to save Milesi as far as they can, because it can be vital later on to keep all the sprinters at distance.
Jacopo, two significant riders for Uno X Mobility were in that group with Tobias Lund Andersen, but trying to get back on and try and get across. And that was Andreas Leknesund and Johannes Kulseth, who are their two best climbers. So they've been caught out a little bit, and they were just off the back. But this peloton at the moment is riding at the pace of Lorenzo Milesi, which isn't red hot at the moment, so they maybe have a chance to get back on.
Yeah, let's not forget the climb itself is not, how can I say, it's not, the finish line is not on top of this, so you still need to make it to the finish. And all the riders at the back, they know they need just to stay outside of the peloton. If they crest the climb, I think the deadline, from my point of view, will be like roughly 45 seconds, 1 minute. I think you can close down a minute if you're a sprinter on the peloton, because sprinter very often they descend much faster than the riders at the front. Descent itself is very twisty. They still have a chance, but Milesi, Lorenzo, the Italians, doing a great job as at the back. Enric Mas and Einer Rubio, the duo, the climber, and possibly the two GC leaders for Movistar team, rejoin the front. And to be seen if they'll be willing to cooperate and work at the front for a sprint of Aular. And
very interesting now.
A rider we haven't mentioned, because he was not on the first line of sprinters, but if he's still in the peloton, and I've noticed him in the peloton, and he can do a very good sprint, he's a fast finisher, is Zambanini Eduardo from Bahrain. He was still featuring the peloton, and among those type of riders, he might be one of the best sprinters.
What a ride this is from Lorenzo Milesi. He's bringing back Mattia Bais and Darren Rafferty second by second. He's got just 6 seconds. He's using them as a visual motivation, seeing those 2 riders at the front there, and he is shutting that gap down pedal stroke for pedal stroke. Bais and Rafferty now being brought back with 50.6 kilometers to go. 7.5 kilometers of the climb still to go, so they're only now around about halfway up this climb.
Still a very, very long way, and the climb itself, as you see, presents quite steady percentage. Milesi seems like he's about at the end of his effort. I don't think he might last much longer than this, and once he's gonna get on the wheel of the duo Rafferty and Bais, I think it's gonna be job done for the young Italian, to be seen, because then it's gonna be up to Oliveira to keep the pace. And if they don't use the GC guys such as Einer Rubio and Enric Mas, then it's going to be very hard to keep the group of sprinters who are gathering behind at distance.
Not too many riders from Netcompany Ineos in this group that I can see, or at least not towards the 4, but Tiemann Arensman and Egan Bernal are both still there. Other than that, I think most of that team has been blown away by Movistar. Milesi, don't forget, was the first rider to go on the front. That's 7.5 kilometers further back down the climb. He started to ride, and he is the rider who brings the breakaway back that went a few kilometers into today's 138-kilometer stage. Milesi now, a picture of distress. He has gone so deep on this climb. He was supported for a few kilometers admirably by Ivan Garcia Cortina, but now he takes over again, having brought back the breakaway.
It is Zambanini, unfortunately, getting distance as well is with Filippo Ganna. I think that's him at the front.
Yeah.
And the other rider from the Netcompany is Jack Haig, Netcompany Ineos. But still, they still have a chance to come back, because it's still a long, long way to go.
But the pace has to be kept high now for this tactic to have been worth it for Movistar. They've put themselves in this position. They have to see it through now, Movistar. Otherwise, the groups will come back together again, or some of them on the climb, on the descent.
Simone Gualti, Toon Arts also distance the two from Lidl, Intermarché. Filippo Ganna is here, scored by Jack Haig. We saw also Francesco Buzzatto from Alpecin Premier Tech. They in a bit in distress. The peloton is composed, I would say, roughly 40 riders still, but it's pretty much in a line. And I think if Oliveira is there to pick up again, and it's now, I think Oliveira is still...
I think it's Milesi still. Yeah, just about. There's Oliveira looking on his wheel, and then Aular.
Chapeau to the Italian rider.
He's done a great ride, hasn't he? Yeah. Just one XDS Astana left, rider left there. Having lost the Maglia Rosa himself, Thomas Silva. Diego Ulissi is right up there. Looking very good. 1 minute and 11 seconds down on GC. Don't know where Christian Scaroni is. He's the best placed rider. There he is, a little bit further back. There's a little flash of blue there. I think that's Scaroni.
Yeah, it might be him, but the position is holding another XDS Astana. Yeah. I think it might be Harald
Lopez.
Lopez.
Yep.
My bad.
Yep.
Bernal at the back with the distinctive position here, a little bit of much easier slopes, as some riders were not even pedaling at the background. There was Jan Christian in the white jersey.
The gradient has just relented just a little bit here. It's slightly flatter, and Lorenzo Milesi gets a little bit of blessed relief with 5.9 kilometers to go. Silva, though, still with Ballerini next to him, but in a group that is composed of lead-out men and sprinters and heavier rouleurs.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
If it's Ballerini still, no, it's Bettiol. Bettiol still with him. That means he doesn't stand a chance to rejoin the front of the peloton. Would be good to know if later on we're going to see the group of sprinters, to see how much of them there are, how many teammates they have, to see if they stand a chance to rejoin the front of the race. 5.6 kilometers till the top of Corso Tunno. Here at the back is Corbin Strong, still featuring in the peloton. Is a good rider for this today's stage. Yep. He still have 5 kilometers to hold on the peloton with him, Pinarello.
Just about still there, isn't he, Corbin Strong, the Kiwi, but he's suffering, and he's got another 5.5 kilometers still to go. He's got Alessandro Pinarello for company to try and coax him through it, to encourage him that he is one of the last riders with a decent kick in this group, and he's still there, Corbin Strong.
Ahead of him, Nick Schulz, another teammate of NSN team. Milesi is still there, still holding on and keep the pace as high as possible. What a ride.
Fantastic performance from the Italian time trialist. Pinarello's Fabio Kristen, the brother of Jan Kristen, is the last rider, or was the last rider, last time we saw the back of the peloton. But Movistar still with 5 riders at the front, drilling it on the front. 4 there from Red Bull Border-Hansgrohe, 5 riders as well from Visma Lease Bike, who were a man down today when Wilco Kelderman didn't start. Team at Arensman, you can see with the orange helmet and the grey kit, he's on his own, and that's Ben O'Connor for Jeko Lula, who's on his wheel. And Diego Ulissi looking very, very smooth indeed.
Here we are with the helicopter shot on the top of the climb, but for the rider, they still 1/3 of the climb, still 5 kilometers, still a long way. I think this is pretty much the situation we're gonna see during the climb. I don't think a major shift in who is riding up front, except for approaching the descent in the best possible position. But let's not forget, at the top they won't see immediately a descent, but it's gonna be featuring a little bit like 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers of false flat before plunging down and heading to Cosenza.
And still Milesi rides. But he's not, oh, look at that face of his. Just agony for Milesi now.
I think at this point, as it looks, he might still be there till the end. What an amazing ride by the Italian. He showed last year a lot of improvement. The former world champion and time trial as a U23. Already that was more than 3 or 4 years ago. Very talented and strong rider.
All strung out. He is doing that damage. And there must be about 60 riders there in this group. I think it is the NSN riders, Pinarello and Corbin Strong towards the back, and they're still there. So Milesi is unable to drop Corbin Strong, who, depending on how he feels, if he manages to survive this climb, could be one of the favourites for the stage.
If I think for Corbin Strong is the best tactic will be just to hold on as much as he can in case he will get dropped, like having a Pinarello and Schulz with him, trying to bridge across once the climb will be over, rather than just overpacing yourself and blow up completely. Here we have a nice overshot. It's Florian Stork is still in the peloton. So Florian Stork, as he stands, without considering the bonuses, is the new Maglia Rosa.
Yep.
I think Corbin Strong, yeah.
He's on the radio, he's dropped. There he is.
And that's what we were saying, like sometimes if you overpace, then even worse than just drifting a little bit at the back, standing still. I think it's going to be very hard for Corbin Strong at this point.
Slight indecisiveness there as to whether or not he gets a rider waiting for him. As finally Milesi is done and Nelson Oliveira picks it up for Movistar. But for my money, and you get to vote on this later on in the Competitivity Awards, the most aggressive rider, how about Lorenzo Milesi? That was some ride. He took around about 10 kilometers of that climb on his shoulders.
Yeah, it was an amazing ride by the young Italian, and chapeau to him, to Movistar. I mean, it was not a team we were considering at that point, and they took the race in their hands, they scrambled everything, and they were the team who got rid of all the sprinters. To be seen if they're far enough to allow this group and go and play for the victory. Even the last, on the paper is among the fast riders was Corbin Strong got distance, so it's now going to be very likely among the climbers, and it's going to be open to a lot of outcome as the Maglia Rosa has dropped, so the Maglia Rosa is up for grab. As it stands now, it's Florian Stork in the virtual Maglia Rosa, but let's not forget we have the Red Bull kilometer 6, 4 and 2 seconds, and the finish line with the bonuses 10, 6 and 4.
Great team performance from Tudor Pro Cycling as well. Not only have they got Florian Stork there, as you say, in the virtual lead of the Giro d'Italia, as things stand, they've also got Mathis Rondel and Michael Storer with him, both of whom are at 10 seconds in the general classification.
Yeah, they can play cards. I think it's going to be a race within the race, because we're going to see possibly the GC riders try to go on the attack for the Maglia Rosa on the Red Bull kilometer, and riders, you know, like Aular. All of this is happening because Aular is still there. Is the sprinter, the dedicated sprinter for Movistar, and you know, I think Movistar will let all the GC guys go for the Red Bull kilometer and just having their eyes on the stage victory.
Can't quite believe this is a Category 2 climb, can you, Jacopo? It is a mighty climb, I think you're right.
And as well, a 2-star stage.
A 2-star stage, 50 points in the Maglia Ciclamino. That is a sprinter's stage normally. Giro organisers have been particularly harsh in 2026, it seems.
Or it might be the case that who was trying the parcours was very, very light. Alex Segard, chapeau to him to be still present in the peloton, being distance right now. If he can manage, it seems like he didn't crack, he just didn't overpace. And if he can manage to stay outside, he might have a chance in the descent to rejoin the peloton. He might as well try something at the very end. He's a very powerful time trialist, and it doesn't look like he completely cracked. Still outside. If he can keep good company with him, it's Lopez been distance as well as from Red Bull Bora Hans.
Vlasov, Alexander Vlasov.
One of the lieutenant for Giulio Peritari, Jai Hindley.
Yep. So Nelson Oliveira has lifted it a little bit fresher, a more natural climber as well than Lorenzo Milesi. Both Oliveira and Milesi, very different generations almost. Oliveira's been a fixture of the World Tour for a decade, but both of them started their career as time trial specialists. But Oliveira is an outstanding climber, and he's lifting the pace, and he's hurting people towards the back of this group now.
And it's a pleasure for the eye to see Diego Ulissi, the veteran, the
really?
Italian, the record holder of among this peloton of stage victories in the Giro d'Italia. Still there, always been in right behind Movistar, and he being given green card, green light to go out today and try and hunt for a victory.
Aliotti, Pellizzari, Hindley still there. Bernal dropped. Bernal is losing contact. So Egan Bernal, that is a worrying moment for him. Still with 2 kilometers of this climb to go. He's battling hard to get back on the wheels. What he needs is Danny Martinez alongside him just to get him to fight for this, because he's fairly close to the top. If he can just get round that rider in front and find something, he can still be in this bunch. But Oliveira is hurting Egan Bernal at the back.
He was seen at the back of the peloton, quite not the usual pedal stroke that he used to have, and he was distance also from Aresman. The duo were not together, so I think he was he's not feeling definitely good, and not the shape he wanted. He's suffering at this moment the pace from the Movistar riders, and not only from Oliveira.
Filippo Zana is the rider in front of him in the white of Soudal Quickstep, of course, these days, as Oliveira continues to set the pace. 1.7k to go. No Corbin Strong, he's been dropped. No Tobias Lund Andersen, he was dropped some time ago. Egan Bernal's done a brilliant ride just to try and get back. He's got a teammate ahead of him as well. Ben Turner's hung on. Well, Ben Turner out-climbing Egan Bernal is not an outcome that I was expecting to be saying. So Ben Turner pulls out of the line now, Ben Turner, and he is only now dropped. And Egan Bernal has been finally distanced by this group. He's not totally out of contention. Ben Turner might be looking around and dropping back to see if he can do something here for Egan Bernal, because he's close. If he can just dig in here, he can just about get back on the descent, because we're close to the top now. 1.4k to go.
Yeah, and that's the moment where Visma bike want to replace themselves at the front. They want to approach as usual the descent in the best possible position, because they don't want to, endure any risk for their leader Jonas Vingegaard, as they're now getting some beatings. Victor Campanella is very good in this climb.
Vingegaard snatching a bottle from the side of the road, gets in the bottle cage, takes 2 on board, so fed and watered. 4 riders there from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, and I think Mick van Dijk might be one of them. And there's Ben Turner, who's picked up Egan Bernal now, and he's going to try and pace the Colombian to limit the losses here, limit the damage. That's the back of the peloton, so this is a retrievable position here for Egan Bernal.
And also, they decided to sacrifice Ben Turner, which in fact he might be in play for the stage victory, in order to help Egan Bernal. All the 3 riders from Net Company Ineos at the peloton was Tim Aresman looked very good. Egan Bernal been distance, and they used Ben Turner to shut down the gap on from Bernal to the peloton.
These are the overall standings in the climbers competition. None of the top 2 contenders, of course, are in this group. Christian Scaroni is in this group, as far as I know. If he's got the legs, I wonder if he might be able to get to the front to take the 18 King of the Mountains points, because he's definitely interested in the Mountains jersey, but it's a tall order for Scaroni. He's probably just like cross-eyed with the effort of just staying in this group at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't noticed if he was dropped, and if it did happen, he wasn't on camera. We're going to see a little bit more once we are on the top who is featuring in this peloton. It's Jan Hirt and Pinarello for the NSN.
Ulissi slipped a little bit now, hasn't he? Damiano Caruso is still there as well.
I think Scaroni might not be in the peloton.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it is just that Diego Ulissi, the last remaining XDS Astana rider.
It's a very, very small group remaining at the front as still Movistar leading the way. Ulissi drifted back a little bit in this very moment. There he is. And I think that's the only XDS Astana jersey. Yeah, there's nobody else.
Scaroni's been dropped then. He won't be picking up any King of the Mountains points.
But let's not forget, it's not over. This is only the top of the climb. They're going to be plenty of descent, plenty of room to make up for the distance. And a lot of riders will be rejoining this peloton. Those who didn't overpace and they're still outside, they might have a chance to rejoin the front of the race.
Well, this long, tortuous climb of the Cozzo Tuno is over for the riders at the front of the race, and it'll be Nelson Oliveira and Movistar who take them over the top of the climb and onto this plateau for the next few kilometres of false flat. That's the top of the categorised climb. The downhill doesn't start for a few kilometres.
And that's, as you see, there is not immediately descent because it's going to be a false flat, and here Oliveira can make a lot of impact because that's the moment when you don't feel good, when you don't have any more energy, where you're unable to match the speed of a peloton. So if they still got good legs, the Movistar guys, this is the moment where they need to even accelerate compared than it was in the climb. Here's Bernal with Zana and Ben Turner.
Now's an opportunity for Turner, I think, just to bring Bernal with him in his slipstream.
The Maglia Rosa group.
2K from the top of the climb.
We knew already he was gone, but another confirmation is among sprinters in here, so he won't be wearing the Maglia Rosa tomorrow. No.
So, Uruguay have produced a gem in Thomas Silva, but his journey in pink ends here. He'll have other opportunities throughout this Giro. I think there's plenty of stages that suit his attributes, his characteristics. It wouldn't be at all surprised to see him on the podium, if not on the winning step on stage, in a breakaway to come.
Nonetheless, was remarkable what he did. Debutant Grand Tour racer, debutant at the Giro d'Italia, at the second stage. It's an amazing victory, the best so far of his career, and an historical victory for Uruguay.
Alessandro Pinarello, one of two NSN riders still there, Jan Hirt being the other one ahead of him. Groupama have got Josh Kench still there. I think he's their only rider, and he's the only rider from Groupama FDJ United who's still in GC contention. Polti Visit Malta as well, they've got one rider still there.
Here at the back of the group of Corbin Strong and Zambanini.
Oh yeah, so that was a dropped group, wasn't it? Yep. Wout Poels is still there from the Unibet Rose Rockets in the main peloton. Timur Arnsman, the only representative now of Net Company Ineos.
And for the first time we have seen the figures of Narvaez, and so with his presence in the peloton, I think like Aular as a real opponent in case of a sprint. I think the fastest riders among this very reduced bunch at the moment, because we might witness some groups rejoining, but at the moment is Aular, definitely Narvaez.
Another interesting rider, one you mentioned earlier, Jacopo, who I've just spotted in this group, is Jaco Alula's Felix Engelhardt. He's still there as well.
As a very fast finisher.
He's fast.
And Matisse Rondello as well is fast finisher. It's not for granted that Movistar are going to be rewarded with a victory despite being in charge, and they took responsibility to split and to shatter the peloton. But still a long way till the finish line.
I'll tell you what is going to be fascinating is the Red Bull kilometre with 11.6 kilometres to go. There's going to be lots of riders trying to take those 6 seconds.
Yeah, because the Maglia Rosa today might, if we expect like an Aular winning, all the riders that are behind Stork are going to have a hard time overtaking him in in the GC. So it's going to be vital for the GC guys being in the mix and being ready to go on the hunt for seconds in the Red Bull kilometer, as Chris Harper for Pinarello Q36 was still there. Here's another bunch of sprinter, Jonathan Milan.
Yeah, this is the gruppetto.
Magnier.
No sign of Arno Deli in that group.
Skubic at the back, but Tobias Lund Andersen, I think they're a little bit too far to stand a chance to rejoin the peloton. I think the only group that can rejoin the front of the race is the group of featuring Corbin Strong and Zambanini, but to be seen if they had enough energy during the descent and enough, I would say, also courage to go full gas and taking risks to rejoin the front of the race, which is now see from behind. This is David de la Cruz from Pinarello Q36.5.
Well, we're inside the last 40 kilometers for the front of the race, and they're going to be very, very rapid as they hit the descent proper now. It's a long, long, long descent. It's probably longer than the actual climb. Slightly less steep this side of the mountain, and they're going to be descending now for the best part of 20 kilometers downhill, taking them pretty close to that Red Bull kilometer with 11.6k to go. So these next 20k are going to fly by.
Yeah, and still Movistar in the lead with Oliveira, very aggressive in the descent.
Good descender is the Oliveira.
Yeah, it's a good rider, a good time trialist. It's been in the field in the Pro Peloton since many years. Seems like a very good descent, very wide corners. A little bit later on, they're going to be a little bit more twisty, more hairpins, but for the moment it's not too demanding for the riders, not too risky. And what we were saying about Calabria, that's the beauty of Calabria. We were starting this climb at the sea, and now it seems like they are on high mountains.
Straight up, straight uphill, straight downhill now into the valley beyond, and then they'll switch and head south down towards the finish line in the middle of Cosenza. What a prospect. Don't know how big this group is officially, but maybe some 40 riders. And there's probably, well, 10, 15 riders who could potentially end up in the Maglia Rosa at the end of the day.
It's going to be a very, very interesting finale. I'm really curious to see how the teams will approach the Red Bull kilometer first, and then the last kilometer heading to the finale and into the finish. I think after a so demanding climb, but also some fast GC guys like Ciccone, if I had to pick one name for the Maglia Rosa, it might be the main indicator, main favorite to get the Maglia Rosa, but it will come down to bonuses. So be sure to stay with us, because very soon they're going to be at the Red Bull kilometer. It's 20 kilometers from now, but mainly descent.
Well, Nelson Oliveira going over the top of that Category 2 climb in first place and picking up 18 points in the King of the Mountains competition. Meanwhile, at the finish line, not too long ago, the riders, including some of the big champions of yesteryear on their e-bikes for the Giro Air, came to a finish in lovely sunshine in Cosenza in team order, enjoying their day out, riding the very same roads of stage 4, at least those roads close to the finish line in Cosenza. Flying downhill, meantime, this group of contenders, from whom the sprinters now officially have all been eliminated. There's no some very fast finishers like Aular, like Engelhardt in this group, Mathis Rondel as well, but there are no what you call specialized sprinters left in the field.
No, they all been dropped, and so that's why I think everybody gonna go out and try to get their chance, because you know, it's not unusual sprint, it's not flat, it's going uphill, so whoever, and I think in this group a lot of them might feel like got good legs, they're gonna give it a go, and that's gonna be good for our what we have to witness, what we have to commentate. And it is a little bit more in detail the time gap. The chasing group with featuring I would say that the closest group with the sprinter that was Magnier is at 4 minutes. The Maglia Ciclamino, in that very group, Jonathan Milan, Tobias Lund Andersen, and Maglia Rosa, it's even further down at 6 minutes. Once he saw there was no possibility for him to stay in touch. He completely exploded and probably was not even trying to go harder.
It's actually a smaller group than I'd appreciated. Lennart van Eerdveld is there. He's in the red of Lotto Intermarché, but he's fourth from the back, just on the wheel of Diego Ulissi, the sole surviving rider of the XDS Astana team. Then there's two riders from EF in front of him. Cepeda is still there, and I think Markel Balocchi is the other rider from EF Education Easy Cost. Into the dark shadow, into the woods, round these hairpins. A little bit technical. Some splits on this descent as Oliveira powers the Movistar train at the front of the bunch, and riders right at the back suffering from a little bit of whiplash out of these hairpins. Jan Christen in the white skin suit is the rider second from last. It's David de la Cruz not looking particularly at ease or confident on this descent, but still there, using the wheel of Jan Christen as a guide. And look at that, will you? San Fili, the latest hilltop town to be showcasing itself. Such glorious effects, and the very, very, very wild and remote and wooded hillsides of these Calabrian Apennines behind this gorgeous hilltop town.
Very green mountains here in Calabria. Town of witches, apparently.
Yeah, these are woods where you would not want to get lost. And the peloton, lovely shot there, the peloton coming past the village and continuing to drop down, not to sea level because we're heading inland a little bit.
Yeah, they have another kicker coming pretty soon. It's doesn't feature even 1 kilometer long, but it's gonna be you know, a moment of truth also to realize where the other groups are standing. And after that one is going to be plunging down again, and there it starts a little bit more twisty. So the position that David de la Cruz, Christen, Lennart van Eerdveld, also Rondel, Ulissi, is not ideal. It seems like a flat tire for Derek G.
Yep.
But I might need to go with the neutral car because I don't think the cars are already behind. We've seen. It's an okay moment to have it, but you need to change it very quickly.
I think it's a front, is it a front wheel puncture that he's got, Derek G? I think he was pointing at his front wheel. Might be slightly quicker to change, but that's an unfortunate moment for Derek G West.
Yeah, he needs to restart immediately and trying to sprint in the next little kicker to rejoin this group. Didn't start the best way possible for Derek G. This race has been involved in the crash. Yeah, he was pointing out on the front wheel.
Yeah.
The car should be there in theory because the gap between this group and the ones behind is more than a minute, but to be seen.
As that race splintered on the climb, though, there would have been chaos in the convoy behind. So many different groups on the road. The commissaires have a real job on their hands there to regulate where the convoy is and make sure that the team cars are up there if the gap's significantly big enough to the front to support the lead riders at the front of the race. So Derek G West in some difficulty. We'll keep our eye on that. And those last 8 kilometers have gone by very quickly. Nelson Oliveira then leading them onto this, as he's called it, a kicker, this gentle little hill. A little bit more climbing to be done, just for a kilometre, perhaps a little bit less than that, and then they'll drop down again and continue the descent.
Pink Balloon and Bucita, or Bucita. Might be correct later on, but...
I'm glad to know Italians get that wrong sometimes as well.
Yeah. Exiting the village, and soon it's going to be time again. Launch down.
Oliveira, Aulard, one of the favourites for today's stage, and definitely the reason why Movistar have been riding today. He's not on GC, he's at 1 minute and 11 seconds, but they're thinking about the stage win for him.
Yeah, it's, as things stands now, the main opponent on the paper, because we don't know how they feel the riders. It's definitely Jonathan Narvaez, very punchy finisher.
Oh, hang on, who have we got here abandoning? It might well be the young Belgian, I fear. We'll get confirmation on the screen. Yeah, it is. Arnaud Delis. Well, as soon as they got onto the climb, he was dropped, and he was dropped not just into the gruppetto, but he was dropped effectively from the gruppetto, all on his own. They didn't send anyone to work with him, and that's a huge disappointment that Arnaud Delis has had to go home. And that's 2 sprinters we've lost today in different circumstances. Caden Groves, due to the injuries sustained on stage 1. Arnaud Delis, due to the sickness that he arrived with here in Italy. Big shame for both those riders, but Delis has exited.
Yeah. Other news you want to see as Derek G has been rejoined with Egan Bernal, Ben Turner and Zana.
Good little group for him to have found. I mean, he didn't want to be in that position in the first place, but at least he's not on his own.
Yeah, he's now they have little time because soon they're going to be going down again, and this is the only moment they're going to have to rejoin the peloton. So hopefully it's going to be enough for these 4 guys, especially for Derek G, because he was touched, he was hampered by the flat tire as Oliveira continues to go. But let's not forget, once they're going to hit the bottom, who's going to ride for those guys? So there's going to be another chance for the group behind to rejoin the front, because if Movistar want to keep pressure on everybody else, they need to use Enric Mas and Einer Rubio, and whether to be seen if they're willing, and they want to do so.
No other team really with anything like the numbers. There's 3 riders there from EF Education Easy Post. Jefferson Cepeda being one of them. James Shaw might be one.
And Michael Valgren. That shows like a great form from the Dane.
Yeah.
And there you go. We got the 3rd contender for the today's stage victory. If he's good enough to stay in touch within such a strong peloton when it comes down to pure GC guys and climbers, Michael Valgren definitely not a climber, but he managed to stay there, so he's in good shape. And well, he come and play for the victory. Yeah,
Michael Valgren's been a while since he's been winning regularly at the very highest level. He's had an injury and illness afflicted career of late, but he is just signs that he's coming back into form, and this is a big opportunity for him. Yeah, now they really stand a chance, and I think with these presents that got a bit of notice before at the front, yeah, we can also expect him to be part of the main contenders for today's stage. 18 kilometers to go to the Red Bull kilometer at 11.6k to go. As they start to descend again for another 3, 4, 5 kilometers, and even then it's full flat descent down towards the Red Bull kilometer. So this infernal pace will be maintained as Jan Christen just slips past David de la Cruz, and he's the last rider in the peloton. This is the Derek G group. Yeah, they're roughly... Oh, there they are. Yeah, like, I would say 20 seconds maybe from the back of the peloton, so they're not too far, but it's going to be hard to close this gap during the descent. Maybe it's going to happen a little bit later on. Seems like they're being rejoined by another Soudal rider, might be Garofoli, I think. We haven't seen if he was coming from behind or from the front of the race. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is... the young Italian, Garofoli, with a little bit of a gap to close to the wheel of Egan Bernal, who's got Ben Turner for company, and Derek G. West. That's the Bernal's on the front, yeah. Twisty parts we were referring to. It's a little bit more hairpins. They're quite wide, not too difficult to manage, but definitely it's going to stretch this peloton as Jan Christen Prost, I think, is struggling a little bit to hold the pace of the peloton in the descent. Maybe not the best of his skill, the descent. Yeah, it's interesting to see from Jan Christen. A little bit of weakness there in that group. He's got a teammate, of course, in Jonathan Narvaez, and a real red-hot favourite to take a stage here, as he has done in the past on 2 occasions at the Giro d'Italia. Jonathan Narvaez did crash the other day, Narvaez, on that horrible crash on stage 2, but unlike Soler and Vine and Yates, he was able to continue his race. So I don't know how badly affected he is by that, but he obviously is in decent shape because he survived the climb. Passed through another town here, 27.5k to go now. And Christen's not been dropped, he's just on the wheel of David de la Cruz. Lennart van Eetvelt ahead of them. He's the only rider remaining from Lotto Intermarché. And if you're just joining in, news just flashed up on our screen not so long ago that Arnaud Delis has abandoned the Giro d'Italia, which is not a surprise. But nonetheless, it's very sad.
Yeah, he was sixth since the beginning of the Giro, and today was possibly too much for him. The second abandon of the day, as Caden Groves left the race earlier on after very few kilometers. So 2 abandons already today, 2 possible protagonists of this race, 2 good sprinters.
Egan Bernal, according to that graphic, has still got 33 seconds to make up to get across to the front of the race. He's in a group with his teammate Ben Turner, who's there to help him, Derek G. West, who punctured and dropped back to that group, Filippo Zanna, and we think Gianmarco Garofoli of the Soudal Quickstep team. Nelson Oliveira, though, just keeps opening up these gaps at the front as he drills it on the descent. This is the Bernal group I think we're looking at. So he has found himself in a group with a bit of support, Egan Bernal. As he looks up the road, that's the gap that he's got to get across to those cars.
They're gonna get across probably after the descent, but they're not far. It's gonna cost them a huge effort, but they're gonna be able to rejoin the front of the group.
Answer to your question about whether the team cars were there for Derek G. West, it seemed not, Jacopo. There was only a neutral service car, wasn't there, behind the front of the race. So he's on a spare neutral service wheel, Derek G.
And that is, I think, Sobrero. He was in conversation with Ciccone, and I think he's going to wait for Derek G and is going to give him a help to the group behind to rejoin. He was informing Ciccone that in instruction came from the car to wait for what is supposed to be the leader on the GC, despite being a little bit down in terms of the general classification compared to Ciccone, but on the long term, on the 3 weeks, he's going to be up there, and they're going to use Matteo Sobrero, the Italian, to helping him out, rejoining this group. Still led by Oliveira, the Portuguese rider. Movistar is going to go definitely away with the award of scrambling what was supposed to be a sprinter stage, or at least for the top sprinters.
No, absolutely no way. It was too hard a climb, far too big a climb, and Movistar have dictated the terms pretty much from the first kilometre of the big Cozzo Tunnel climb. They took it up, and it's Movistar who've shaped this race with this outcome at this point. We've just got a little over 10 kilometres to the Red Bull Sprint.
And chapeau to them for Movistar doing so, because it was, we underlined the name of Oblar, but you know, it took a brave move and a very good spirit to go out and scramble all these things to set him up a sprint for the Venezuelan rider.
Beautiful Cosenza is the finish location of today's stage. Feast your eyes on this and then tune back in for the race. Today as well, bathed in warm sunshine. Just a couple of clouds just drifting over the Calabrian hills. The 11th time the Giro d'Italia has come to Cosenza. The last time it was Rolf Jahrmann in 1989, that momentous year for European history. He took his first and only ever Giro stage win in Cosenza. Still dropping down, the gradient's not quite so steep then, so that breakneck speed not quite as fast any longer.
Einer Rubio did take over from Oliveira, so they indeed are using one of the GC contender as Sobrero rejoined here the group featuring Ben Turner, Derek G. Then it's Raccagni Noviero, actually, we haven't seen, but I think he rejoined from behind. So a good ride, and he's helping out Zana, which features a good sprint, and soon they're going to be back in the peloton. Egan Bernal also in part of this group. That's why the presence of Ben Turner, which was in the peloton.
Some climb from Ben Turner, wasn't it?
Yeah, impressive. And team decided to sacrifice the young Briton to help Bernal rejoin the front, and he might, try to recover a little bit of energy ahead of the sprint. He still have a chance, but probably what he spent now can damage his results. But there are bigger things for the team, as Bernal is a protected rider. Jan Christen also can feature a very good sprint. Seems like very much in control. Blinking to the camera.
Tavares then, the two UAE Team Emirates riders in conversation with one another. Two different champions who could win this race in two rather different ways. Jonathan Tavares would be feared by just about everybody here in a group sprint. Jan Christen, perhaps not quite as fast as Tavares, but not far off. But Christen often wins alone, doesn't he? If he can find a way of attacking from distance, he will.
Yeah, there is a little bridge with 1.5 kilometers to go, so that might be a perfect ramp for him. But imagine even after the Red Bull kilometer, now the riders are at the front who want to control this. There are not many. Is Movistar left with just two riders to control this. So I think from the Red Bull kilometer, which is going to happen in about 7 kilometers, from there on, anything can happen. I think some of them, they're going to try their luck and go out in the hunt and trying to drop everybody else and to stay clear ahead of the peloton, because later on as well, the road is going to pick up a little bit. It's going to be mainly false flat going up.
And that Bernal group is still not there. They've got Matteo Sobrero, who's joined forces with Ben Turner to try and bring the group back, but it's tantalizing. It's just sitting there at around about 20 seconds, proving very, very hard. It's a barrage as well. There are no cars in between this group and the back of the peloton, so no assistance whatsoever. They've got to do this on strength. Hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks hard, and Ben Turner, I think he spent a lot. He looks like he's a lot in pain to rejoin the wheel of the other riders, so it's a lot of energy spent, and the two leaders, Egan Bernal and Derek G, they in the same group for different reasons. They're getting closer to the peloton. Let's not forget the gap that you see now is from the head of both peloton, as front of the group featuring, I would say, almost 30 riders. It's a little bit longer, so in fact that they need to close a gap of roughly 6-8 seconds.
Derek G. West doing some work on the front himself. Has to, really. Raccagni from Sudal Quickstep.
Great ride by the Italian Raccagni. Not a pure climber, new pro. Managed to get himself back at the front, I think with a fantastic descending skill, because he was not featuring this group. I think he rejoined this group from behind.
Well, it's been lightning fast all day. We always were anticipating a fast race today, despite the headwind in the opening 50 kilometers or so. Breakaway of the day really played their part in keeping the pace high. Darren Rafferty, part of a six-man move from EF Education Easy Post at 10 seconds on GC. Astana and Decathlon could not afford to let that breakaway have any chance of success. Unfortunately for Decathlon, they've still got Felix Gall in that group in terms of the general classification, but their original plan of Tobias Lund Andersen, well, that blew up under pressure from Movistar, who took over on the climb, and it was Movistar who ensured that none of the sprinters, including Tobias Lund Andersen, made it to the finish. Yeah,
Felix Gall is part of the first group. There is a teammate with him, whether to be seen if it was Mulberger who was present at the front most of the time, or the much more pure climber, Callum Scottson. It's Zana and Ben Turner start to struggle in this little kicker, as Sobrero really digging in to close this gap.
So close now, aren't they?
He's the freshest of among them, and he knows now that's the moment to shut this down, and soon the merge will be done by, and thanks also to the job of Ben Turner, Matteo Sobrero and Raccagni. Zana is quite in pain here to stay in touch, but you see the difference in you know, implication from the riders as finally Bernal, Derek G, the two GC riders in this group, and Ben Turner, Raccagni, Sobrero and Zana here. Still a few meters to
I tell you what, that's Little Trek have come to the rescue there of Egan Bernal. Sobrero made a big difference there, and they bring back that group. Now, interestingly, I mean, he's suffering, he's gone very deep, but Ben Turner, if he can recover over the next few kilometres, I mean, he's almost what you'd call a sprinter, Ben Turner. So there's another potential stage winner into the reckoning, Ben Turner. But how much has he got left? Look at him there. Second from last. He's struggling just to hold the wheels.
Yeah, he spent a lot of energy. He was with Bernal since 2 kilometers from the top of the climb of Cototurno. Since then, he was pretty much doing all the job, later being rejoined by Derek G, by Zana, and ultimately by Sobrero and Raccagni. But if he got something left in the tank, he might try something. It's not going to be easy for him. Damiano Caruso, still part of the first group.
And don't forget that the virtual leader of the Giro d'Italia right now, as things stand, is the German Florian Stork of Tudor Pro Cycling Team. In the absence of Thomas Silva, he is the virtual leader, one of 3 riders, including Mathis Rondel and Michael Storer from that team.
And everything will change very soon because the Red Bull kilometer is approaching, and with the seconds available in there, 6, 4 and 2, everything can change. And let's not forget the final the bonuses at the finish line is going to be 10, 6 and 2 seconds. As within the decathlon, that was Mühlberger indeed, along with Felix Gall, the duo from Austria. Jan Christian in conversation here with the car. And the 2 protected riders for Movistar are Eric Mas and Aular. All this was done to set up a sprint for Aular, a reduced sprint for Aular.
Well, job done to this point anyway for Movistar. 15 kilometres from the finish line, they have executed their plan to perfection. Ivan Garcia Cortina played a huge part. Lorenzo Milesi played a massive part, and so too did Nelson Oliveira. Now it's Ana Rubio's duty just to keep the momentum up, make sure there's no other groups that could get back on, and keep the pace high. Keep the riders on edge here, including Jan Christen, who's spending a lot of time towards the back and now needs his team car.
Yes, this is the group who are going to go for the victory. Nobody else will be able to rejoin. I would be curious to see Michael Wahlgren. Would be more than happy to see the Dane winning a stage after being so much unlucky in recent years. He was stepped down for 1 entire year from professional rank. He was featuring in the Devo team in order for to him to having a much lighter program because he was coming back from an injury. And he found his way back to winning at this year Tirreno Adriatico, not in the way he was used to, but from an early breakaway. But why not? Today he managed to stay in touch. That the shows are great fall by the Danish rider. And EF Education Easy Post with Cepeda, Wahlgren, and a third rider that we haven't actually saw the number yet. We haven't saw who is it.
I think it's Bellocchi. It's Markel Bellocchi.
Good ride by the young Spaniard. Yep. Very reduced bunch in here.
2 riders there from Jaco Alula, including Ben O'Connor and Felix Engelhardt. Watch out for him. Both those riders at 10 seconds on the general classification.
And another fast finisher in Diego Ulissi. Maybe not at the level of the other riders, but still have a chance to do something good today. 1.7 till the Red Bull kilometer, as you see. All the GC guys regathering at the front because they know they have to do. Michael Storer is actually leading out Florian Stork. It could be a historical leader jersey for Tudor Pro Cycling, a recently new team in cycling wearing a leader jersey. It would be a first time for the Swiss squad for wearing a leader jersey in a Grand Tour.
There he is, Florian Stork, the virtual leader of the race. Giulio Ciccone coming up alongside him. Giulio Pellizzari sitting tucked in on his wheel with Jai Hindley behind him. But it's Stork with a lead out. Then 1.3k to go from a Australian climber. Not a accustomed role at all for Michael Storer, but he is moving the German up on the wheel of Luis Aular. Lots of riders, lots of teams, though, interested in taking these 6, 4 and 2 bonus seconds.
I think Mathis Rondel, the other riders from Tudor Pro Cycling, won't be involved in this and gonna be pursued for the final. Very smartly, riders like don't have any interest in the general classification, but rather just today's stage sit at the back.
Getting closer now, 700 meters, and they're interested as well, aren't they? Red Bull Border Hansgrohe. Aliotti on the front, but the sprint is developing on the other side of the road. And it is Jonas Vingegaard who is being led out. He will hope to take those 6 bonus seconds. He's going to face competition in the shape of Jai Hindley. Jonas Vingegaard then showing real intent here. The big lead out coming his way. Hindley on his wheel. Then comes Florian Stork, Giulio Ciccone, Jan Christen also in the mix. It's Jai Hindley against Jonas Vingegaard. Stork waiting to open up his sprint. Finds himself a little bit blocked there, looking for room. Jan Christen coming with a real rush. Mick van Dijk as well in the mix. Christen, Van Dijk, Hindley and Vingegaard are going to get beaten. Will Vingegaard pick up third? It's going to be close. Jan Christen crosses the line in first place. A little bit of a complaint there. Was Pelizzari complaining at Jan Christen, but it was Christen who crossed the line in first place.
It was a slow sprint, that's why it was a little bit left and right from the riders, because of course when the speed here is a little bit of mix-max from Jan Christen overtaking here Vingegaard. It was a very long sprint.
Pelizzari there, that's the moment that he just felt he was blocked by Jan Christen, and then he swings across and almost hinders Jonas Vingegaard, with Giulio Ciccone picking up 2 further bonus seconds for third place.
As it stands right now, Giulio Ciccone and Florian Stork are at the same time.
And so too is Jan Christen. Yep, we've got 3 riders on 4 seconds now. And Egan Bernal, 4 riders on 4 seconds. So 4 riders all at 4 seconds.
And let's not forget, if those riders won't be featuring the podium of today's stage, the little jersey, the maglia rosa, are going to be given for this, the best sum of the results in the recent stages.
Yep.
So they had to sprint.
Worry about that for another day.
Yeah.
Giulio Pelizzari moves to 6 seconds in the general classification, picking up 4 bonus seconds for second place there. But it is after that, just to repeat, Egan Bernal, Giulio Ciccone, Florian Stork and Jan Christen, who are all on 4 seconds, tied effectively in the general classification. Giulio Pelizzari is at 6 seconds, along with Tiemann Arendsman. And then the rest are at 10 seconds.
Now it's going to be just controlling by the movie star riders, Einer Rubio and Nelson Oliveira. And to be seen if somebody's feeling like he quite have the legs. That's what we were talking about, is a gentle uphill drag the whole time, 1%, 2%, but it's never really easy for the rider. He's going to need to push hard on the pedals because the speed won't be too high. And before the finish line, we can dive a little bit in what the parkour, what the last kilometers of today's stage going to be offering the riders, because it's not straightforward as it was in the previous stages. It's going to be some corner. As said, it's going to keep always going up before reaching the 1.5 kilometer. At that point, they're going to turn left on the flat in order to take a bridge. So it can be considered this like a perfect ramp for somebody to attack. At the last kilometer, it's going to go down a left turn before picking up again. Then a consequence of right, left, and then last corner right for 450 meters at 4% gradient. But the last 50 meters actually picks up quite consistently, and you need to choose the right momentum, because if you start and you open up your sprint early, you might be caught up and not having quite the legs till the finish line.
Interesting, wasn't it, Jacopo, to see Jonas Vingegaard sprinting for bonus seconds at the Red Bull kilometre. I hadn't necessarily anticipated that, but it's a good sign of the way his attitude here at the Giro d'Italia. He's prepared to take it on in a situation like that.
He knows that today, maybe in the sprint, he won't have much chances to get on the podium, and instead of giving those seconds away for free, he's trying hard to, to get those. I don't think the Giro will be decided by a matter of seconds, but it's also like mentally it matters. Zolar
Ulisi's picked a good wheel. Diego Ulisi, the wily Italian, on the wheel of Alois Aular. Ben Zwiehoff moves up on the right-hand side of the road, just tucks in front of Giovanni Aliotti. So 2 domestiques there for Red Bull Border Hansgrohe, for their 2 leaders, Giulio Pellizzari and Jai Hindley. Nelson Oliveira, in the meantime, has moved back onto the front for Movistar. Bart Lemon sits just tucked in 3rd place on the wheel of Aino Rubio. Aular's dropped further back and sits behind the Visma Lisa Bike quartet of riders looking after Jonas Vingegaard. Ben Turner, where is he? Has he managed to recover at all? I think he's towards the back still. So Ben Turner has gone very deep on the climb and very deep to bring Egan Bernal back. But if he can recover and he can work his way up towards the front, you should not rule out the young Briton.
It's probably doesn't go in his favor that the last part is constant drag uphill, and you need to have good legs for this kind of sprint, not just sprinting abilities. So what he done before might cost him the chance of sprinting today for the victory, but you never know. When you see the finish line, you might find energy you didn't know you had. So let's wait and see. I think also Visma Lease Bike gonna try something for somebody, because I mean they have numbers. They have 4 riders still up there, 5 actually, with Sepp Kuss, Piganzoli, Lemon, Victor Campanart and Jonas Vingegaard.
Jan Christen dropping right to the back again. He likes to ride at the back of this group, but he's clearly got good legs today. He won that sprint, provisionally at least. I don't know whether the commissaires might have a look at it, but it should stand. Jan Christen.
Yeah, it didn't seem like something wrong by his
No, there
movement.
was a complaint, but there often are complaints, aren't there, in sprint. 7 kilometers to go. Rubio back on the front. And now Ben Turner is being moved up with, well, he's moving Timo Arendsman up towards the front, actually. And that says a lot, so he's putting his nose in the wind. Yeah,
exactly. When you see riders going on the wind, it's a clear indication that might not have the good legs. Here is Michael Wahlgren. We talked about him before. He chose and he decided to stay on the wheel of Jonathan Narvaez. Behind him is Engelhardt. The fast finisher. He might do something very good today.
Yeah, the slightly thicker set of the 2 riders from Jeko Alula, the other one being the slender figure of Ben O'Connor, who I don't think would be among the favourites today, but you never know how this might play out. 2 riders there from Decathlon AG2R. It's Felix Gall and Gregor Mühlberger. Don't imagine they'll be too competitive. Just the 1 rider, I think, or are there 2 riders from Bahrain victorious? Yes, they are. Damiano Caruso with 1 teammate with him.
He's at the back with Raccagni, the young Italian. So now things have calmed down a little bit. The duo for Pinarello Q36, not fast finisher, none of the 2, no. David de la Cruz and Chris Harper. Lennart van Hertveld, I mean, it's going to be featuring in the sprint, but why not trying something before? I mean, it's you have to hand out to him that he's to think out of the box sometimes and maybe do attacks when they're not expected. So why not today again? So here's the place we were sleeping yesterday at the university. So.
Rende, isn't it? Yeah, big university town in Calabria. Very close to Cosenza, very close to the finish line of today's stage. Oliveira and Rubio there, a Portuguese and a Colombian lead out for a Venezuelan, for Alois Aular. That has been their plan all day long. They didn't bother getting involved in that battle for the Red Bull kilometre bonus seconds. They are totally focused on 2 things really: keeping Enric Mas safe in the general classification and then trying to get a stage win with Alois Aular, who's a little bit off the general classification. He sits at 1 minute and 11 seconds.
Very soon they're gonna cross the arch of 5 kilometers today. As we said, for the organizer, this is a sprint stage, but you wouldn't say by looking at the size of the peloton, but nonetheless, that means from 5 kilometers on, whatever you're gonna be involved in a crash or a mechanical that can cause you like being dropped from this peloton, you're gonna be accounted with the same time. So from now on, every type of problem for those riders in the peloton, going to be awarded with the time of the winner of today's stage.
Doesn't mean you can't be dropped, though. And
no.
The gaps, as they apply, could still materialise if somebody or if a little group decides to attack. And that is why Nelson Oliveira and Ana Rubio, who don't want that situation, they don't want to have the chaos to deal with, they're keeping the pace high as they approach the run-in in Cosenza. 4.6k to go.
We fairly expect some attacks very soon. As Jan Christian seated at the back while Narvaez was seen surfing a little bit more in the peloton. This is the size, it's hard to call it a peloton, of the front group, because roughly less than 30 riders possibly.
It's interesting to see Christian behave like this, isn't it? It's unusual. But, I mean, it's clearly his preference just to sit at the back of a group.
But it's such a small group, you won't take much energy to move up at the front. Here's the last 3 kilometers of today. That's what we were talking about. And as they're getting closer, that little bump you see, that's a bridge before a little bit of a descent and the last drag uphill. It's going to be a very, very demanding sprint for those riders.
So 4 kilometers to go. Christian getting ready. What's he going to do? Take his chances in the sprint, try and attack, trying to hit out a long way out. Quite technical inside the last 2 kilometers, but from here to that point with around about 1.4k to go, it's relatively straight and straightforward, but then the technicalities begin after that, and the drag up to the line is going to make, for these tired riders, the sprint complicated to get right from a group this size. No specialist sprinters in this group, no specialist lead-out men left. This is an unpredictable sprint. A group maybe with 4 or 5 riders who you'd say are the big favourites, but it wouldn't be at all surprising to see an entirely different outcome and somebody else taking the win here. Everything is possible from this group.
Especially if they're gonna get down the road with the wrong momentum too early. This might open up for some other riders. Let's not forget, Giulio Pellizzari is a fast finisher himself, and Giulio Ciccone. Those are the 2 among the GC contenders who had the best punch. And we just saw Derek G was returning the favor to Giulio Ciccone with Sobrero on the wheel, and then Giulio Ciccone in third wheel, going to replace themselves, trying to get the best possible position, as Damiano Caruso working for Eulalio, another Portuguese, part of this front group. Tim Aresman also want to be involved in the sprint, trying to fight for the wheel of Aular, the Venezuelan champion, seated in 4th wheel.
Yeah. Alessandro Pinarello has just been moved up by Jan Hirt into a handy little spot, just around about 5 or 6 riders back on the right-hand side of the road, alongside Thymen Arensman. And Jan Christian, if he's going to launch, is going to have to come from a long way back. He is right at the back of this group, which is getting stretched out now by Nelson Oliveira working on the front.
It was very interesting to see as well Giulio Pellizzari. He was sitting right in front of him, so he also decided to stay at the back. He don't want to be involved in any fight at this point. They're going to move up later on for sure, because they need to do the sprint, as Jai Hindley is on the left.
Lennart van Eetveld is making a bit of a move there. He's all on his own. He's got no teammates to work with, but he's picked the wheel of Derek G. West, the Canadian champion, to try and move up, make a few positions up on the right-hand side of the road, the left-hand side. 2 riders from Jacob Alula. Felix Engelhardt in the purple. Watch out for him, as the trio of riders from EF Education Easy Post, Michael Valgren included, work their way closer to the front as well. But it's NSN who've made the move, and it's Jan Hirt on the front. Lidl Trek, though, with Giulio Ciccone and Matteo Sobrero. Ciccone sitting in 3rd wheel on the right-hand side of the road.
Job done for Oliveira, and then the attack's
there it
from.
comes, right the way from the back then. The white jersey, Jan Christian, unleashes, and this is a problem now for the rest. It's Movistar, and it's Lidl Trek who try and respond to shut down Jan Christian. UAE Team Emirates, the prodigiously talented young Swiss rider, from the very back to the front, blasts clear, gets a little bit of a gap, and now he's got to hang on, but they're trying to chase him. It's Movistar who've got the numbers potentially to bring him back. He's got a couple of seconds, no more than that, Jan Christian. He looks around the corners, and can he hold them all off?
That's the bridge we were talking about. It's going to be a little kick in the legs of the rider. It's going to be go down and then on the left, but he has a little gap, not much, but he can make it, because Eric Mas is trying to manage his way to take Jan Christian. He has a margin, Eric Mas looking back.
1 kilometre to go then for Jan Christen. He's got a little bit of a gap, and it's a growing gap. Enric Mas is on his own, and it's Giulio Ciccone, Matteo Sobrero trying to bring Ciccone back to the front of the race. Mas beginning to stall. He is brought back by Matteo Sobrero, but all the while, Jan Christen's advantage is growing in the final kilometre. Christen, what a blistering attack that was. What a mighty, mighty acceleration. And it's growing and growing, and it's Little Trek's Matteo Sobrero who has to shut this down. He's got a few seconds in the bank. Ciccone surfing the wheels now, trying to sit on the wheel of Aular. Is Christen going to start tying up the closer they get to the finish line? Sobrero closing the gap, winching his way across to Jan Christen. Christen, has he bitten off more than he can chew? Takes a second round that final bend, and now they line up and they see in the distance the finishing arch. Christen holding on to his precious advantage, and it's Aular who opens up the sprint. Aular with Ciccone and Narvaez. Aular holding off the Italian for now, pushing for the line. Narvaez, the UAE rider, coming with a charge, but it's Aular who's going to hold them off. Movistar take it with Aular. It's going to be close on the line. Narvaez with a charge, but it's Narvaez who gets there ahead of Aular. Giulio Ciccone in third. He timed it brilliantly, and Jonathan Narvaez has done it again. He loves this race, Jonathan Narvaez, and that was sensationally timed. And UAE, after all their difficulties, after that horrible crash and that awful day on stage 2, have got their stage win. He's done it again.
That was an amazing sprint, Warren Narvaez. We said earlier you need to have the right momentum, and Aular went too early. You saw the last 50 meters where the race was decided, and Narvaez could benefit from the attack of Narvaez. He was seated perfectly on the wheel of Giulio Ciccone and Aular, and he just chose the right momentum.
Provisionally, I think Giulio Ciccone is in the Maglia Rosa. He picked up those bonus seconds for third place. He will lead the race. Aular is off the general classification. Jonathan Narvaez started 5 minutes down. He takes the stage win. Aular, frustrated after all of that, will only pick up second. And by my reckoning, Giulio Ciccone will lead the Giro d'Italia after the end of today.
Aular decided to go too early. He was very far from the finish. If you're going to count the second, he was sprinting. He was definitely too long for the Venezuelan rider. As this man from Ecuador, after being marred by a crash in second stage, he got it right today. I think there was an agreement between the two riders to do, you know, Jan Christen on the attack and Narvaez just waiting for the right moment to launch.
What a rider. A stage that did suit him, but don't forget that Jonathan Narvaez was one of the riders who crashed the other day.
Yes, we got a replay of how the sprints unfold, and here is now Aular started too early possibly. I think he reckoned he was too long, and he decided to slow down a little bit. Narvaez calmly on the wheel, he decided when it was the moment to go, and here's where he opens up. And Aular, here's the moment where he goes full in.
Well, it's Ecuador against Venezuela with an Italian on the wheel. That is a big winning margin in the end for Jonathan Narvaez. He was cruising over the line. Aular roundly beaten, and Narvaez picks up his third ever stage win at the Giro d'Italia. Started winning here 6 years ago. Took stage 12 in 2020 in the COVID edition, the November edition of the race, and of course famously took the Maglia Rosa by taking stage 1 2 years ago in Turin.
Amazing ride, but Ben Tane crosses the line in fourth after they've been working for his leader Egan Bernal. So amazing ride by the Briton.
We'll have to wait and see whether or not the commissaires rule that there are some timed gaps in this group as well. Jonathan Narvaez, though, coasting over the line, no doubt about his victory.
If you go back with the images and look, there was a gap was created on the corner. So basically there were 4 riders going after Christian. It was Sobrero, Aular, Narvaez here in the picture, and Ciccone. And behind there was a little gap, and that also I think it caused the chances of all the riders to go for the victory.
And to some extent, Jonathan Narvaez can thank his teammate as well. Jan Christen's attack shredded the group and made everybody work so hard to try and bring him back. But Ciccone, I think the news is filtering through that he is being ushered towards the podium. For the first time in his career, the leader's jersey of the Giro d'Italia is going to come his way. Looks a little bit disappointed, doesn't he? Because, well, that's Ciccone, he's a winner. And so too is this man, Jonathan Narvaez, who's going to give us his thoughts now after another victory. Win number 3 at the Giro for Narvaez.
The Giro is your comeback race after your crash in January in Australia. And like 2 years ago, you're a winner in the first week. How big is that for you?
I think it's really big for me. This victory here coming from 3 months training in Ecuador. I want to send thanks to my family, my wife, my team. They've been a great support in this time. And obviously, this victory is also for my teammates. They crashed on stage 2. They've been working for a while to come here in a good condition, and finally we take the victory today, but we work good the stage 2 too, so I think we are all happy now.
Tell us about the tactic at the end with Jan Christen attacking, and then the big battle of the 2 South Americans.
Jan is a great guy. He was trying to take the Maglia Rosa. He's a young guy. He needs to learn how to race. He did a great final, and in the end, for me, was just wait for the sprint.
But at the end, you were behind Aular. Tell us about your last effort.
I knew they worked so hard in the climb. Also, Ciccone was there. I think I take really good the corner. 700 meters to go, and in the end was just about the legs in the last straight.
Enhorabuena.
Thank you. Good.
Well, he got that absolutely perfect, didn't he, Jonathan Narvaez? And I think it was right that in that interview we were reminded that Narvaez started this year in January in Australia and was going really well, leading the Tour Down Under, and crashed. And it was a bad crash as well. And this Giro is his first race since January.
Yeah, he was in good form, but nonetheless he was coming, as he said, from 3 months in Ecuador, where he was trying to get back in a much better shape, and I think he worked, because as he stand, he was able to remain with such a reduced group, and then he found his way here. But what a ride by the duo. I mean, the UAE Team Emirates, they've been left with only 4 riders, and today I think with the 2 remaining, I would say, like strong climbers, they were able to shape the finale. Well, this man is going to stay another day in Ciclamino, as Narvaez was nowhere near in the point classification.
That's true. He did pick up 50 points, though, Narvaez, because this was only a 2-star stage, where a bunch sprint of sorts was expected, and something entirely different was delivered. Paul Magnier will still have that handsome lead over Jonathan Milan at the end of the day. Good day out, really, for him.
Was I think many riders, many sprinters started the day hoping that this would have been hard to earn sprint, but it was not the case. It was simply the climb was much harder. It looked hard, but of course you get a little bit fooled by the 2 stars being given to the stage and thinking like, okay, this might be as well a sprint, but simply wasn't the case. None of the sprinter was featuring in the front group.
Magnier comes to the line in a group with Jonathan Milan. There he is. Ivan Garcia Cortina as well from Movistar played a big part in the way that race shaped up, with the effort that he did for 2 or 3 kilometers on the foot of the climb, along with Lorenzo Milesi, who's one of the men of the race, I think, today. Almost the whole Bardiani team is in this group. And so too is Paul Magnier. So one of the gruppetti comes to the line. I think there may be another one behind. We'll have to wait and see.
There's the one of the Maglia Rosa, definitely, and possibly another one even far further down. It is the sprinter gruppetto crossing the line. I think in a way, you know, also for those riders, you know, the sprinters, they started the day hoping, okay, this might be my day. When you see the top 10 finisher of today, when you see like only 20 riders, 25, 30 made it to the finish together, you think like you kind of give you a sense of peace with yourself. It's not like you underperform, but simply the parkour was simply too hard for the sprinters to stay in touch within the front of the race. There is a nice view of the Castello Normanno Svevo, very ancient, built by the Saracens.
Built by the Saracens and then used by pretty much every other army that settled here in Calabria right up until it was converted to some military barracks in the 18th century. Big margin of victory in the end. Good sprint as well from Van Eertveld, who was up there towards the front. Where you had to be, just in case that there was some splits in that group.
It looked like there was behind Christian, you know?
Yeah, you never know, do you, what the commissaires are going to make of that. Did Jan Christen just not have the legs today to pull off that tactic, Jacopo?
I think like it was the perfect moment to try to do so.
Yeah.
There was not another spot where to try and go on the offense. And no, I think it was not just a matter of legs, but behind there was a very strong leg. Chapeau to Sobrero. In first place, Mas, I think he was doing an amazing job keeping the Christian at distance, and then ultimately when Christian was fading a little bit, let's not forget Christian was seen a little bit in pain, like not maybe the best skilled when it comes down to cornering, and Sobrero, I think he gained a lot of time also on the corners, and but it was one man against two, so it was a hard task for the younger Swiss rider.
Yeah, it's a bit of real teamwork from Enric Mas. It slightly surprised me actually to see a GC leader do that role. And this is the general classification. Ciccone takes over the lead of the Giro d'Italia. Italian in pink in Italy on the first day. That is appropriate, isn't it? Florian Stork will be disappointed that he drops down to third place, but still very much in the hunt. Christen moves right up there, and Egan Bernal still, despite everything, just 4 seconds off the lead. Ardensman and Pellizotti at 6, and then the rest at 10.
There's another group of rider, and it's the Maglia Rosa. We say farewell.
Not the best day for XCS Astana today. I think they probably would have feared this outcome. I mean, you just have to accept it. He was dropped quite early on in the climb, Thomas Silva. They only really had Diego Ulissi involved in that group at the front of the race, and well, in years gone by, perhaps Diego Ulissi might have won that stage or been on the podium, but I think those years are a little bit past him now. Still, he's climbing extremely well to have survived and been in that group.
Yeah.
Thomas Silva has had a hell of an experience, and he won't be too disappointed. He's tasted the feeling of being in pink for a day, and he's got plenty more opportunities to go for stage wins in the stages to come, starting tomorrow.
Nonetheless, chapeau to him. Today's in pink jersey at your first Giro d'Italia, at 24 years old for the young Ecuadorian, Uruguayan, I'm sorry. And it's gonna be, I don't think you can be disappointed when you're distant by such a huge margin.
No.
So, I mean, he had his time. He was very good the other day. It was a different parcours. Today was a different type of climb. So, I mean, I think he done it the best he could.
A music hall opened in the early 20th century. Well, tomorrow we've got a stage of over 200 kilometres. Today was short and sharp, the shortest of the Giro d'Italia so far, just 138 kilometres. A 2-star stage. Haha. That's just the Giro organisers having a bit of a joke with us. Well, that victory will have done no harm whatsoever to Jonathan Narvaez's market value. He's out of contract with UAE Team Emirates at the end of this year, and his future is a little bit uncertain. But another victory at the Giro d'Italia increases his value. And there's absolutely no doubt about how well he's recovered from that crash in Australia and what his form is like. Wouldn't be at all surprising if Jonathan Narvaez leaves Italy with another stage victory before the end of the race as well. Big moment though for Giulio Ciccone coming up. He knows what it's like to lead the Tour de France, that albeit 7 years ago. Was it 7 years ago? No, maybe not that long ago. When did he lead it? It was 7 years ago, 2019. But Ciccone beaten again into third place. He's been so regularly picking up these time bonuses, and that's what's given him the jersey.
It is possibly the mistakes from Aular, which he did a very good sprint, but look how long after Narvaez decided it was time to go, and still from Narvaez was also a very long sprint. And I think Aular started, he noticed he was starting too late, then when he looked back and decided, okay, I have to accelerate right now. That's why he managed nonetheless to got away with the second place, but the punch of Narvaez was unbeatable today, possibly. I think he's going to go home, Aular, with a little bit of regret after so much work from Movistar team.
It's a little bit like the story of his Giro d'Italia last year, isn't it? Almost and not quite, although that was full of promise. Here, he was heavily backed by his team, who rode brilliantly. Movistar today, they rode to a man. They put in exceptional performances.
Yeah, the only reason we had such a reduced bunch today was thanks to the riders of Movistar. And there is the new Maglia Rosa, Giulio Ciccone.
Went very deep in that sprint there, Giulio Ciccone. Just can't match either Aular or certainly not this man for raw power. He's got a good sprint on him though, Giulio Ciccone, as he's proving day after day from the GC selection.
Very strong and punchy rider, Jonathan Narvaez.
And there we go, behind the scenes. Well, if Giulio Ciccone's career had finished without this moment, it would have felt wrong, wouldn't it? I think he's done enough at this particular race to have merited a spell in the pink jersey, and it could be a reasonably long one as well. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out over the next few days, and most significantly, I think, when we get to the blockhouse stage.
There you go, you got a glimpse of Giulio. Maybe not the way he was thinking to start. I don't know if it was a clear target at the beginning of this Giro, but there we are. It's going to be all joy for the Italian fans.
So, first off, we have the ceremony for the stage win. And for the third time in his career, Jonathan Narvaez, he knows what to do. And that, when he steps out in front of this big Italian crowd here, that is going to be some moment for Giulio Ciccone. Well, UAE Team Emirates were never going to just collapse and leave empty-handed from the Giro d'Italia, despite what's happened to their team. And don't forget that Jonathan Narvaez crashed 3 days ago on stage 2, and here he is on stage 4, fully recovered from whatever bruising he had on that high-speed crash. Looks totally unencumbered by it and in blistering form. Kept himself hidden, didn't he? Didn't see much of him in that group, Jonathan Narvaez.
He has a very smart way of racing. It's not showing off too much, and just when it matters, he took the front, and I think it was the right move. I mean, imagine like if you show yourself you're in a very good position up front on the climb, and then you're gonna push, movies start to go even more deeper. It's better hiding yourself and just waiting for the chance to appear. And well, today I think he had everything perfect, and probably he was putting a big red circle around this stage. And let's not forget the Giro d'Italia later on is going to present similar stages to this one, so we're not adding more victories to his career.
So already off the general classification, so, and with no GC ambitions, UAE team Emirates, he can be unleashed, Jonathan Narvaez. He can do what he likes in this race. He's a free electron. Beats Aular in an all South American 1-2. Giulio Ciccone picking up a very significant third place. Ben Turner just off the podium, having done a lot of work to rescue Egan Bernal. And Diego Ulissi picks up yet another top 10 at the Giro.
Indeed, we're going to go with the Maglia Rosa, with this man.
Well, my thoughts go back to that stage in France in 2019 where he picked up the Maillot Jaune of the Tour de France, and he was beaten on that occasion for the stage win. History has repeated itself here. He was second on that occasion to Dylan Teuns, third to Jonathan Narvaez, but his sheer consistency and his fighting for bonus seconds has landed him with an advantage over all the other general classification riders of a few seconds. And he's merited this pink jersey. He's fought for it.
Yeah, he fought very hard. He contested in each sprint, in each Red Bull kilometer where he had the chance. And yeah, the third place today against, I don't want to say all the odds, but there were faster riders than him in the sprint, but he found himself in a very good position. And well, yeah, he has to believe it.
He's a big, big name in Italy for all the right reasons, Giulio Ciccone. And that picture will be on all the newspapers' front pages tomorrow, that Italy once again has a Maglia Rosa to celebrate. Last year it was Diego Ulissi in emotional fashion. And today is Giulio Ciccone, and he is in a GC race now. I think sometimes the confused thinking with Giulio Ciccone that he's never sure when he starts a Grand Tour whether he's a stage hunter or a general classification rider. Well, I think the pendulum has tilted just slightly in favour of GC since he's actually got the Maglia Rosa now after 4 stages. We'll have to see how it goes. But he's clearly on good form, Giulio Ciccone.
Yeah. What he has to do now is just enjoying the jersey and to see where it goes without too much stress. I mean, he has a backup, and quite a backup, with Derek G in the team, so he doesn't have to overly worry or the team putting him under too much stress because they know they have cards to play. And till now, I would say everything was right for him. So
here's the reworked general classification. Ciccone leads by 4 seconds to 3 riders. Jan Christen in second place, Florian Stork and Egan Bernal, who battled hard to defend the losses that he could have sustained today. Team Irelandsman is at 6 seconds. So Netcompany Ineos still with 2 riders in the top 5 places in GC. Paul Magnier is the Maglia Ciclamino for another day, and no surprise in that. He wasn't threatened from the moment that he was dropped along with every other sprinter, every other threat in the Maglia Ciclamino. They were all dropped on the climb. And so at that point, in terms of the points competition, Magnier knew that he was fine. He won't be bothered by the 50 points that Jonathan Narvaez has picked up at the finish line today. His next appointment to build up those points may come tomorrow at the intermediate sprint. We'll have a look before we finish today at the course of tomorrow's stage.
Yeah, the next proper sprint at the finish line, so a proper sprint stage is going to be the one on Naples, although the finish line is not the most obvious and might be open to different scenarios, but tomorrow definitely a stage for the breakaway. We will see later, but this is the classification as it stands.
Giulio Ciccone's moved up to 5th. Tobias Lund Andersen, well, they rode for him today, but he was ultimately dropped, so he didn't add to his tally. Narvaez moves up to 3rd place at 50 points. A rare day off for Diego Sevilla.
For once he was not in the breakaway. I think he was more than happy to enjoy a little bit of, I would call it rest, but definitely spending a little more time on the wheels in the peloton.
He'll be pleased as well that the rider who picked up the 18 points for the only King of the Mountains today was Nelson Oliveira, because he won't consider Oliveira to be a problem at all. So good day actually for Diego Sevilla, and an opportunity potentially tomorrow. Fair amount of climbing to do tomorrow. 2 categorized climbs, and the first one comes very early on as well. They pretty much go straight up a Cat 3 climb. So we might see him on the attack after the flag drops tomorrow in Praia Amare.
Yeah, tomorrow it's definitely a very hard stage, a race that really has written breakaway all over the kilometers. So it's a stage for the hunters, and it's going to be, yeah, expect a lot of guys going on the attack.
Oliveira leapfrogs Manuele Tarozzi and takes his place in 2nd place in the King of the Mountains competition. But still with a lead of 24 points over everybody in that classification. Now, he was wearing the white jersey on behalf of Thomas Silva for the last couple of days, but Jan Christen now wears it by rights. So steps right onto the podium as the best young rider in the general classification.
With this kind of form he's showing so far, I think it's fair enough to expect him to be one of the protagonists when it's going to be more chances, possibly much harder races. It seemed like the whole day he was in control on the climb. He was never in pain, or he looks very in control of his own effort. And at the end, he launched a very, very good attack. Unfortunately for him, there were still some helpers, domestic, available to shut his attack down, but nonetheless it was a great show of form. And as well, he won the intermediate sprint, the Red Bull kilometer, so some seconds in his pocket, and looks all good for the young Swiss rider, the first ever Grand Tour.
Yeah, he's made a very good start to his Grand Tour career at the Giro d'Italia, and there's so much more to come, you suspect, from this super talented Swiss rider. Good day for UAE Team Emirates, stage win, and Jan Christen taking control of the Best Young Riders competition. Let's have a look at the standings then in the white jersey. He leads now Giulio Pellizzari by a slender 2 seconds. Van Eetvelt moves up into 3rd place at 6, alongside Bellocchi, Mathis Rondel, and Davide Piganzoli, as well as Josh Kench, who had a good day today for Groupama FDJ United. The sun just starting to dip a little bit lower. Late afternoon here, and a microphone being readied, I think, for Giulio Ciccone. Let's get his thoughts then as he assumes the lead of his home race. He is the new leader of the Giro d'Italia.
Giulio, 10 years ago, you started your first Giro d'Italia. It took you 10 years to get this jersey. You've had highs and lows, even not starting the Giro. We know you've had the yellow jersey at the Tour de France, but as an Italian, how does that feel?
Yeah, the feeling is, I would say, amazing. I always dreamed this jersey since I was kids. I started this sport dreaming to wear this jersey, and yeah, today I think I really realized one of my best dreams. Especially like this, you know, I was not expecting this jersey today. After many hard moments, especially last year with the crash, I think this year wearing now this jersey is something really crazy, I would say.
How did you make it? Tell us about that sprint. You knew that the top 3 would make you the Maglia Rosa.
Yeah, this morning already when we did the meeting, we had a plan, and our plan was 50-50 because it was one of the stage where you don't know till the climb if it will be sprint or at the end reduces bunch like was. Yeah, my plan was just take this jersey, so take the second in bonus sprint and take the second also at the finish line. So at the end I did the sprint. I was a bit close on the barrier, so I finished third. And then again third in the finish line, so it was enough to wear this jersey.
The first mountain stage of the Giro is in your region, Abruzzo. Is it too early to imagine yourself climbing the blockhouse in the Maglia Rosa?
Yeah, I think it will be super nice, but it's still we still have to do the stage tomorrow, and we still have a hard moment before we are right there. But for sure, it's a big dream, and yeah, why not? I feel good. We have also a good team, and for sure we want to defend, and we try to go really far.
Grazie mille.
Ciao.
Yeah, the boy from Abruzzo has got an appointment with Blockhouse, the first big mountain top finish in 3 days' time after the Potenza stage tomorrow, the Napoli stage to come, and then it'll be Blockhouse. And if he is in pink, which he has every chance of being, it'll be a very special day indeed for Giulio Ciccone. 10 years have passed since he first rode to victory at the Giro d'Italia in the green of Bardiani back then. Paul Magnier had a relative day off today. Let's get his thoughts.
Well, nobody knew how hard the climb would be or how hard the peloton would go. What did you expect today?
Yeah, we knew the climb was long and hard, but we did not know really who will speed up in the climb. But Movistar took the control straight away from the bottom and put all the sprinter on the limit. I tried to hang on the climb, but yeah, we're not fast enough. So a new chance on Thursday normally.
Still in the jersey.
Yeah,
looking
exactly.
ahead.
Yeah, I try to follow the other sprinters to make sure I can if there is a sprint be there, but was no chance for a sprint today, and now I'll try to focus on the other sprint stage.
Merci.
Yeah, short, sharp interview. Not much to say, really, for Paul Magnier. It all worked out fine for him today because the intermediate sprint was effectively neutralised as well, Jacopo, by the breakaway.
Yeah, and again, like, you can be disappointed if you underperform or some sort of things, like all the sprinters are at the front and you're at the back. But today, I mean, it was just a matter of the big guns of the GC guys.
Well, let's hear from the King of the Mountains, Diego Sevilla, who likewise didn't have much to do today.
Diego, you just crossed paths with the man who had the Maglia Azzurra for 4 days before you, Giulio Ciccone. He's in the Maglia Rosa, so this is a jersey that can bring luck in the future. What do you think?
Oh, no. I think it's too much for me, but yeah. Unless we have this jersey now, and we try to keep it as long as possible, as always said.
Have you tried to make the breakaway again today?
No, today no, because I know that the climb will be difficult to stay in the front. Just was like this, so we put Mattia Weiss in the break because it's also strong, and we tried to arrive with him, but not was possible because, as we thought, was a really good fight for try to make them arrive the sprinters. So yeah, that was more intelligent to save energy.
So you're happy with today?
Yes.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Yeah, he should be happy with today. Still has a big lead of over 24 points over Nelson Oliveira, who moved up into second place. Might see him on the move tomorrow. Early on, there's a categorised climb. And finally, I think it's the last of our interviews. Jan Christen has moved into the lead of the Best Young Riders classification. Let's hear his thoughts.
Yeah, you made the time bonus, then you attacked from behind the group. You tried everything. Are you happy with what you have done?
Well, I mean, the team win with Johnny, so yeah, I'm super happy for the team.
About yourself, can you tell us what was your plan when you were the last of the group and suddenly you attacked?
Yeah, it was the plan with the team that we try for me to go with a late attack to put pressure on the other teams to try to close, and then to have Johnny for the sprint if they catch me, and in the end was like this. So Johnny win the stage is super nice.
After the time bonus, did you know that you were very close to the Maglia Rosa?
Yes, for sure, but I knew if I take the stage, I take also Maglia Rosa, so this was in the end the goal when I attack also, but yeah, now it's Giulio in the jersey is also super nice, and there's still some nice stages to go.
And the Maglia Rosa might be coming soon.
We see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good day for UAE Team Emirates all round. Jan Christen did what he could. Let's have a look at tomorrow's long stage from Praia a Mare to Potenza. It's a 3-star stage. A lot of climbing, over 3,000 meters of climbing tomorrow. Up and down all day, really. Up and away from the Tyrrhenian coast, straight up and over the first categorized climb of the day. Prestieri. It's a category 3 climb, then rolling along a plateau before they drop down for an early sprint at Francavilla Insigni, and it might be that the break doesn't go until after that. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. When the break goes, though, they might be hard to catch whenever that is. A little bit of a long valley prelude up until they head up a category 2 climb, the Montagna Grande di Viggiano. And then it's the Red Bull kilometre right at almost the very highest points. Through that then, and it drops down to a finish with a couple of complications in the last few kilometres into Potenza. Should be a day for a breakaway. Long, over 200 kilometres, but plenty of opportunities there. And maybe their bunch will just let them go all the way to the line. We'll have to wait and see. Only one way of finding out what's going to happen on stage 5 after a blistering stage 4. Make sure that you don't miss a pedal stroke. We'll be back with live coverage of stage 5 slightly earlier than today. It's a longer stage, so check your schedules. But in the meantime, from me, it's ciao, and from Jacopo,
Ciao as well, I would say.
Yeah, ciao for now, really.